Everyone, thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's Thursday, Dominic.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good, man. Let's get to work. First and foremost, got a really big show ahead. The Booker, he's back from vacation.
Welcome back.
Yes.
You've been relying on me all this time.
I know. Who would have guessed that Dominic does the booking around here? No, mostly it's me. If it is to be, it is up to me.
It's a team effort.
It's become more of a team effort.
Yeah, well, we all got things going on, but news is breaking. Someone's got to make a call, man. We do that together, man.
Except in this case, I'm taking all the credit.
Yes.
Congressman Mark Pocan.
Yes, welcome back, Mark.
The cardiac congressman comes back from his convalescence. See what I did there?
Oh, you have lots of C's.
I'm so good with the alliteration. I hardly ever slur like the president.
What the hell was that?
Sounded a little bit like Tommy Thompson declared at Packer Day, all across Wisconsin.
Whatever he's taken was wearing off. He needed another shot of orange.
Shot of something. So Congressman Mark Pocan, he'll be here long, Dom, like 25 minutes, bottom of this hour, about 2:30 Central Time. And the John Doe, of course, it's back on the front page. We're going to revisit some of the details of the John Doe.
There's been so much over so many years, Curdy. You think you're going to be able to remember it all?
I've tried to refresh my memory as much as I can. We do have a few exclusive insights coming your way. As only we can, Dom. We got the best sources.
You will be so proud of us. You'll be very proud.
You will be. And we got the best guest, including our friend Matt Rothschild. Batman is joining us. He's going to help us remember Matt Rothschild, of course, with the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They are the campaign finance watchdogs.
Keeping an eye on the money.
And we're also going to talk about the campaign finance lapdog, Leah Vukmer.
Leah.
I don't think Leah liked being subpoenaed for her emails. Now, let's not forget, Leah Vukmer was not in her own right recalled, but she did draft the legislation to destroy the referees. And maybe now we know why she didn't like being subpoenaed.
Free speech. Right? Isn't that the issue? This is free speech, right to assemble.
I tell you what, Tom.
No, we're not going to go there. Let's not go there.
It was illegal when they were doing it.
Yes.
We're going to, in fact, cite the specific precedent-setting law in the state of Wisconsin. When Scott Walker was coordinating with outside groups, it was illegal when he was doing it. Now, granted, the Wisconsin Supreme Court gave him a get-out-of-jail-free card.
After the fact.
And Leah Vukmer and her friends and colleagues over there on the Senate and the Assembly side, they have subsequently passed legislation to create a unique Wild West of campaign finance laws here in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeehaw!
And when I say her colleagues, of course, I mean all the Republicans, Tom. Democrats didn't sign off on this. But that will be for the 3 o'clock hour.
We promise. Think you'll be able to keep the passion up that long, Mike?
Oh, for days and weeks and months and years, Dom, the corruption in the state of Wisconsin knows no bounds. But first and foremost, let's start the show with the national headline. I actually heard this right here on WRRD 1510 AM when it happened live this morning. Unfortunate to the fine guest they had on 414 Wisconsin. We'll have her back. We'll encourage you, Brian, to have her back. But this morning on the show, Al Franken from D.C., the senator from the great state of Minnesota, announced his intention to resign effective
A couple of weeks.
soon. Soonish.
Yeah, maybe around the holidays.
Yeah, after the holidays. Got to spend some time with the family first. If you would, Fancy Brian, we're going to need your help with this. Let's start with the sound. Here's what it sounded like playing out on WRD 1510 AM earlier today. Al Franken, the senator from Minnesota, he's done.
Today I am announcing that in the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate.
And I know there are a number of Democrats, progressive friends of ours, that say, no, don't do it. Go fight these charges. And Al Franken did not go down admitting that he was guilty of a number of these things. In fact, he was denying a number of the accusations against him, or at least being kind of grayish about how he addressed these issues.
Well, it does draw a stark contrast to the ruling party, the Republicans, and Franken points it out, the irony of it all. The next one, please, Brian.
I, of all people, am aware that there is some irony in the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
Good Republicans, as they're called, Dom.
It is quite stunning. And have you heard anybody calling for Trump to step down? Any Republicans? Have you heard any Republicans? Well, there have been a few Republicans pushing back against
Of
the
conscience,
RNC.
sure, to say this is a step too far, but they still vote for his policies. I mean, what, $100 check, Jeff Flake, to the opponent of Roy Moore?
Well,
I mean,
listen,
I'm sure it's appreciated.
This is a constitutional republic. You're going to have different ideas on policy, and I understand that. But there is presumably some level of conduct, of personhood that we should have in these positions. Maybe. I mean, is that just apparently it's just a dream. It's just something to talk about, something to teach about. That's how it should be, because according to the Republicans, that's not how it is. And as long as that person will sign your legislation, then it's okay. That's a terrible standard.
There are people out there, guys like Dave, you know Dave, tweeting at us.
Hey, we got to wait till tomorrow. He can't listen today. He said we can rip on him tomorrow when he can listen and call us back.
I will do so on both days.
Okay, there you go.
I'm not really going to rip on Dave. You're entitled to your opinion, Dave. It just happens to be wrong.
Yeah.
He said, effectively, don't do Al Franken like you and Dom did Hillary Clinton. And my response was, no regrets then or now. I mean, I think we need to draw a contrast. And I have no doubt we are playing by a different set of rules than the Republicans. I get it. I would rather be held to a higher standard as a Democrat, as a progressive, as a human being.
Right, as a person. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, I don't have any regret in calling for the resignation of Al Franken. I don't think we led this charge. Maybe Gillibrand did. But I think we didn't jump in until, 10 other U.S. senators did, until Tammy Baldwin. I'm going to follow the progressive Wisconsin senators' lead, and I'm going to call for Franken's resignation if Tammy Baldwin thinks it's merited. I would suspect they've had the time to review some of the allegations against him. Sure, he'll get his due process through the ethics committee, but no one fired him. He chose to resign. So don't lay it at my feet.
Let's keep going on. One more.
I'm not influential enough to affect Al Franken's thought process one way or the other.
Pretty, you're very influential, man. Don't sell yourself
Are
short.
they playing us out overnights in Minneapolis?
I think
Maybe
they are. They might be.
when he's up late at night, he'll listen to us. Damn it, I should have listened to Crudy and Dom.
He probably had a few late nights recently. As you mentioned, Crudy Franken from the floor of the Senate today, pushing back on some of the charges. Let's play cut 92, please.
It gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done. Some of the allegations against me are simply not true. Others I remember very differently.
Here's what I would say, Dom. As I listened to this live, and unfortunately we hit the end of the 414 Wisconsin show. They had to wrap it up and, throw it to the news. But I will tell you, this resignation, a little long-winded. I mean, if you're quitting... Yeah.
Quit.
I
Done.
quit.
I'm leaving. Drop the mic now. Take the small beer refrigerator on the way out the door.
Certainly, Al Franken's entitled to his last thoughts as he resigns from the U.S. Senate. But I would say this speech came off as very self-serving. Al Franken, this wasn't the way to do it, not to my opinion. But ultimately, I think he did the right thing. He resigned. And now I think it's fair for we as good progressives and Democrats to try and turn to our right and look at the Roy Moores, at the Donald Trumps, and with credibility, we can say, now it's your turn. Now you step down. And sure, I don't expect them to step down, but I expect the electorate, especially females, to rise up and do something about it. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. You're listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM. If you want to jump in, now's a good time, 844-967-2789. We got Mark Pocan joining us soon, but you could be next. More Devil's Advocates after this short break.
I walk out the door, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Take this job and shove it.
Ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it.
I like to work, so that's not a problem. But this is actually more work.
Wow, that's messed up.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy, but know you need to move? Hi, folks. This is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet-friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009. Or visit cclmanagement.com today.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call a number on the for sale sign?
Great question. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you the home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner to buy that house at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust.
Like you?
Like me. I will find the home that best fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from the offer through closing day. And the best part is that the buyer doesn't have to pay a dime for me to represent them.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to, are you? Kids, work, listening to the radio. You're busy, which is great because busy people can't get prediabetes. Oh my, I read that wrong. They can. Should have worn my glasses. So visit doihaveprediabetes.org and take a short test, because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that
I'm using
failed
facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton and Cates.
I needed an attorney because I was injured at work. I wanted to find a reputable attorney. The results that I got with Lawton and Cates were very good. I'm very happy with the way I was treated and the end result that I got.
Trust the voice of experience. Call the attorneys at Lawton and Cates, 282-6200, 282-6200.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We're live on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on the phones at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we're going to get to the phones momentarily, but there is another prominent, and I would say this is perhaps one of the worst sexual abusers that we've heard tell of. Larry Nassar, he is the ex-USA gymnastics doctor, and according to CNN, he was sentenced to 60 years in prison on child porn charges today, according to Elizabeth Joseph. Larry Nassar, the disgraced former U.S. gymnastics team doctor who admitted to sexually abusing underage girls, has been sentenced to 60 years in federal prison on child pornography charges, a court official said Thursday. U.S. District Judge Janet Neff essentially imposed a life prison term on the 54-year-old physician, sentencing Nassar to 20 years for each of 3 counts, which are to be served consecutively instead of concurrently, Dom, according to the docket. But the child porn charges are not the most serious accusations against Nassar. In November, he pleaded guilty to 7 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct and admitted to using his position to sexually abuse underage girls. 3 of those charges related to the victims who were under age 13. He will be sentenced on those state charges in January. This was the Team USA doctor. He has 140 accusers.
Under 13. Well, hell, he just would have waited till they were 14, he could have been in the Senate. 844-967-2789. Let's get to the phones. Our pal Chris from Sun Prairie. Hello, Chris. What do you got for us today?
Hi. Well, I'm disappointed. I'm one of those people that is disappointed that Al Franken resigned. I really think that this was kind of a railroad job. I really do. I get a lot of grief for it because a lot of people think that we should just believe women when they speak, and I believe we should believe women when we speak, but I think we really have to look at things with our eyes open, too. I mean, I don't think going from believing every man all the time to believing every woman all the time is really going to right this wrong. You know, I think that we need something in between there. And particularly where Al Franken was concerned, I don't understand why he did not have an investigation. Everybody kept on saying with Roy Moore, there will be no investigation. There is no way to go to court, which there isn't. It is going to be the court of public opinion. But in Al Franken's case, that's really not the truth. We could have had an ethics investigation. And I guess I just don't find the original accuser very credible.
Which of the 7 don't you find credible, Chris?
Well, when we start talking 7, okay, first we have Leanne Tweeden. I don't find her credible because I think she was put up to it by Roger Stone. I think that it was very, very good strategic,
But there was a photograph, Chris. People could react to what their eyes saw. Now, certainly that was posed. I don't think it was an actual act of any sort of sexual predation, but, you know, it set the stage for what came next.
Okay, well, the picture, okay, does not really shock me. I was a teenager in the 70s, okay? I grew up on Saturday Night Live. That just does not do anything to, like, shock me. I don't think he was really touching her.
Yeah, but the 70s Saturday Night Live was way better than when Al Franken was on.
And let's... I will certainly forget the Ariane Huffington photographs. Some of these things were photographs staged. They were for humor, no doubt. Whether or not the quote-unquote victim found it humorous, that's a whole different story. There was no actual touching going on, but there were credible allegations that he at minimum grabbed women by their butts and forcibly kissed is the newest accusation. Chris, if it's not true, and I know he's denying some of it, but why is he doing so at his resignation speech? I mean, ultimately, he is his own jury. He knows in his heart of hearts whether or not he's guilty. And I tell you what, if I wasn't guilty, if these were false accusations against me, Chris, I don't care if there were 100 senators or 99 lined up against me, I'd stand there and I'd take my hell and I'd have my day in court before I'd get up and resign. Ultimately, if he's not guilty, why didn't he just stand up there and say, you know what, I will be exonerated through the ethics process? And I know he thinks he will be, but why resign then?
Well, I think that's a good question for him, but I don't think he gets to determine whether there's an ethics investigation or not, and he doesn't get to determine whether other people would work with him or not, and I just don't think he thought he could be effective if he stayed. I don't know.
That's what it comes down to, Chris. I mean, he makes those decisions on his own. He's taking into account perhaps other people around him, his colleagues, his party, his country, and I would commend him at least for that. You don't see that happening on the other side.
No, and I mean, I've been around plenty of creepy guys in my life. You know, I understand what sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse are. As I said, I was a teen in the 70s. Okay, I grew up when a lot of that stuff was really fuzzy. I mean, you know, when we were young, people did grab more than they should have.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that makes it right. I just have this feeling with Al Franken that it just smells of a setup. It looks like a setup. Many of the accusers are anonymous accusers. I'm not really hearing anything that's convincing me, and I wish that they would give him his day in court.
Let me flip the script. If you heard these very same allegations, let's say against Rush Limbaugh, Chris, would you believe him then? Would you have said, "Hey, Rush Limbaugh needs his day in court"?
Well, you know, I would believe him about Rush Limbaugh because of the way the man has lived his life. Al Franken has people that have worked with him coming out and saying this is not the man that we have known, this is not what he's done. When you're around a man that is sexist, they're sexist. I mean, you know it. And I just feel like this was a setup. I really do. And it's working really good. A point I'd like to make that before I get off the phone is that the Minnesota governor is planning on appointing his lieutenant governor to this seat. And this lieutenant governor has absolutely no intention of running for this seat. I think
caretaker
it's a huge
position.
Mistake.
Yeah, well,
yes,
Chris,
it's a huge mistake by the Democratic Party because.
Chris, sorry, we got to cut you short. Yeah, this caretaker will not have the benefit of incumbency. Will not run again. Our understanding. We've got a fine U.S. Congressman joining us next. Mark Pocan. We've been missing him. He'll join us. Friend of the Devil's Advocates.
Guilty. People, because I'm good enough. I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I improved my credit score.
You're kidding, right?
No.
How are we supposed to be the bad boys of electro-synth pop if you're out there being responsible? The band is about to be discovered. This is our year.
Yeah, you've been saying that for a while now.
You think anyone in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was worried about their credit score?
I never really thought that.
Of course they weren't. Rock stars aren't supposed to think about that kind of stuff. We're supposed to think about how many guitars we've smashed, write aggressively sensitive power ballads, start questionable fashion trends, tragically break up and blame creative differences.
All right. I thought maybe it was time to take control of my finances, you know? Start using a budget, get out of debt, set some goals.
A budget? Debt? Set some goals? Listen, I knew that we'd have our creative differences, but I was hoping they'd involve a little more scandal.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Well, you are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Milwaukee, Waukesha. Ooh, I just felt a trickle down.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more, it's a no-brainer, I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Diamond Crude Special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Hello, friends. Tom Malanzi here from Teamsters Local 200. Here's a fact. United States Labor Department statistics show union workers receive, on average, 30% more in pay and benefits than non-union workers doing the same job. If you're a worker interested in receiving better wages and benefits and respect at your workplace, give Teamsters Local 200 a call at 414-771-6363 and ask to speak to a Teamsters Local 200 organizer today.
So I'm a cat. And I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Tune in to The Resistance, Monday through Friday beginning at 7 a.m. on News Talk 1510 a.m. From 7 to 9, it's The Earl Ingram Show. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and Daryl Ingram. The Tom Hartman program is next from 11 to 2. Then from 2 to 5, it's The Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join The Resistance, News Talk 1510 a.m. WRRD.
Good afternoon. It is 2:32 for 1510 a.m. WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Opponents of the Republican tax plan are planning a protest in March in downtown Milwaukee this Saturday. Late last Friday night, Republicans in the U.S. Senate approved the plan, which will cut taxes on corporations and wealthy Americans, and while raising the tax burden on the middle class and the working class over the next 10 years. The plan will also slash Medicare and cause millions of Americans to lose their health insurance. The protest in March is scheduled for this Saturday beginning at 2:30 at Pere Marquette Park on the Milwaukee River downtown. Tonight, partly cloudy, lows in the mid-teens. Tomorrow, partly sunny, highs in the low 30s. Currently, it is 24 degrees in Milwaukee and 22 in Waukesha. For 1510 a.m. WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are joined right now live via phone by a fine guest and a good friend. He is U.S. Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, it's been way too long.
It has, and it's good to be back on here with you guys. Thank you.
It's good to hear your voice, Mark.
Mark, can we ask, we don't mean to be overly personal, sir, but how's your health? We understand you went through a cardiac procedure.
Yeah, so I think it was November 8th, so 4 weeks ago yesterday, I wound up having a triple bypass. A few weeks earlier, I was at the gym, and I just kind of felt a little short of breath and just didn't seem right, and mentioned something to my brother-in-law, who used to be a nurse, and he's like, you need to go get a stress test, and I felt completely fine, so I thought, well, I'll do this just to shut him up, and went to the doctor. They did a few tests, and next thing you know, they said, we want you to do a cardiac consult, and all of a sudden, after they had a couple things back, they're like, we want to do a catheter, we think you need stents. And make a long story short, when they went in to do the catheterization, they realized I had 100% blockage on one artery, 90 on another, and they couldn't quite tell on the other, but it looked like it was 70 to 90%. And the good news was we were doing this all before something bad happened. I have a perfectly healthy heart, so I've been told I'm going to have even more energy, which I didn't think was possible, but I'm glad. I'm looking forward to that when all this is done. But, I've just started cardiac therapy last Friday, so I'm getting myself strong again, and I'm going to go back to Washington in January, ready to do everything that has to be done. But right now, just finalizing that process of getting really healthy.
Mark, was your cardiologist able to determine how much of this could be blamed on Donald Trump?
One interesting thing is I never... I've learned, I've been in the business long enough that things, I obviously feel very strongly about what I feel, but I have a pretty thick skin, and, those kind of things don't bother me. My dad actually had a heart attack at 44, so this is kind of a genetic thing, and, I probably did eat a little bit too much at fast food restaurants and things, and I'm drastically changing that, but I'll tell you what's weird is watching this from afar, from being essentially on a home arrest, I refer to it, because I'm home and you really can't do much. When you're just kind of recovering, other than take naps and things like that. But then watching what's happening, and I'm just shocked that the Republicans have been so absolutely brazen on their tax plan and so incompetent on trying to keep government open more than a couple weeks at a time. And then just watching all the rhetoric from the president on go ahead and throw a dart at any of those subjects, and it really It's odd to watch it from afar because it's been a couple decades since I've been watching something from afar, not in the game. And while we're still doing things through the office, it's weird not to actually be there as so many crazy things are happening.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. We got Mark Pocan live via phone. Mark, you brought it up. I got to ask you, Paul Ryan, your colleague from Wisconsin, of course, the Speaker of the House, effectively says we need entitlement reform in 2018. When he says entitlement reform, he's talking about Medicare, Medicaid, and what? Social Security. Mark, does Paul Ryan hate poor people?
Oh, he hates poor people and middle-class people. So he's really not that discriminatory. He just happens to prefer people in the top 1 or 2%, those who fund the campaigns of the Republicans that he has to get the money from. But, this is something that is in Paul's DNA, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I think when he was probably 5 years old playing with Play-Doh, he was, trying to, adjust the taxes on Play-Doh at that point. He's always wanted to do this, and we've seen his budgets he's presented where he's gone after Social Security and gone after Medicare. So, to be fair, I think he's doing what he always said he was going to do. It's just no one actually believed he was either that cruel, evil, or dumb to do it. And I'm not saying that he's one of the three, but I don't know what other category you'd be than to take money from poor people in the middle class through the tax code, redistribute it up to the top 1 or 2%, blow $1.5 trillion hole in the deficit, and then come back and say, oh my God, we have a problem with the deficit, we got to do something. And then you go after the very programs that the middle class and those who are trying to be in the middle class have paid into their entire lives and have a promise waiting for them. So this is a guy who does not represent the people of Wisconsin, but he does a hell of a job of representing hedge fund managers, members of Mar-a-Lago, the Trump family and the Trump cabinet, and a few other people.
Well, cruel, evil, or dumb, Mark, couldn't it just be 2 out of 3? So help.
All of the above, sir.
It's a huge disappointment because as an individual, Paul is a very personable, nice guy. It's hard to dislike Paul as an individual, but those are truly terrible qualities, what he's doing in his tax bill and what he wants to do to entitlements and what he's doing to health care shoved into a tax bill, taking away from 13 million people. I mean, those are all really awful qualities that make me think of Donald Trump and make me think of people like that. But honestly, those are coming from Paul Ryan from Wisconsin. And the part that really bothers me is I don't want anyone to think that that's how people in Wisconsin think, because it's not. But it's just how someone who's lost touch with Wisconsin, like Paul Ryan, thinks.
But you've heard him say it. He has merged his agenda with the Trump agenda. The Paul Ryan Trump agenda are one and the same.
Oh no, he does so well in rolling over and letting the president rub his belly. He's very very good at that. And I'm sure that he gets good treats from the president, and that's positive for him. But the bottom line is, I grew up in the 1st Congressional District in Kenosha. 14,000 people used to make cars there. They don't anymore. Now there's an Amazon distribution center that advertises up to $12.75 an hour. If your kids are making less than the parents did decades earlier, that's not a good sign. In Janesville, Paul's hometown, I think 10,000 people used to make cars. I mean, this is not someone representing people who live in southeastern Wisconsin, and I think that's what really irks me is, there are plenty of lobbyists for every special interest in Washington, more than you can shake a stick at. But the only group that really is out there advocating on behalf of the middle class, I would argue, is labor unions. And, so it's really individuals trying to, call the representatives, just make sure that someone's got their back. That should be the job of elected officials. You should represent your constituents' best interests. And instead, he's representing the special interest in Washington that already have a bunch of lobbyists. And so to me, it's the antithesis of what you're supposed to do when you're in Congress. And, I've just grown that I'm tired of being nice and smiling about it. I got to just call it as it is. This is a horrendous political agenda that's good for no one back home but maybe the top 1 or 2%. And, unfortunately, that's what the Republicans are doing across the country.
You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM WRRD. Our Congressman Mark Pocan is on the phone with us. Mark, help me understand how the Republicans and Ryan can sell this thing. First, they're going to pass a law that cuts revenues, and then they're going to complain about the expenses. How does that even... How can they say that in the same breath?
They're hoping that people have very, very short attention spans and that you'll find a shiny object in whatever Kim Kardashian is up to this week rather than noticing what they're doing to you. In fact, I think the way we have to look at this is the tax bill is part one, and part two are the cuts to the entitlements. Because, I give them at least credit that they've started to talk about it while they're still talking about taxes. But, all of a sudden they're going to act like this deficit. They're going to try to blame Democrats, or more likely Obama himself somehow did whatever they just did. And then they're going to go after the very programs that people really need and have paid into all their lives. So, my guess is this is really great for political donations when Sheldon Adelson and the Koch brothers wind up with a huge refund in their tax bills because of this tax bill. I'm sure they're going to give them even a bigger chunk of money to fund their campaign.
It's like a finder's fee, Mark.
Oh, they're going to have a nice finder's fee for all their campaigns. But I think that people are so much smarter, and they're watching this more than they give them credit. And I think at some point you're going to say, okay, you just doubled my personal deduction, or personal exemption, but you took away the personal deduction. Well, yeah, maybe you doubled something from $6,300 to $12,000, so you made it $5,700 more. But when you take away the $4,000 personal exemption, well, then already it's a little piece of money. And then you look at all the other stuff they take away that people take advantage of, and then they got to pay more because they're losing their Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. And at the end of the day, you got your wallet robbed. And the wealthy got all that money thanks to Paul Ryan and the Republicans in Congress.
Congressman, that's starting to sound a lot like math on the radio. I got to ask you, though, will the government shut down tomorrow night at midnight? Do we have the money to continue to run our government? And can Republicans solve this problem in, 48 hours or less, Mark?
I think they will. I mean, this is the most pathetic thing to watch. The fact that they're only going to try to extend government for 2 weeks, and they're having a hard time doing that when they're in the majority in the House, the Senate, and they have the White House, right? I mean, how many clowns can you put in the truck, like a Shriner little parade or something? And it's just watching how bad it is, because you've got the defense hawks who want to make sure by the beginning of the year they've got all the defense money that has to be out there, even though the people in the military are saying they've got a little more time, don't rush it on their account. And then you've got the Tea Party trying to flex whatever little muscle they've got by saying, no, we want to wait not to the 22nd, but to the 30th. 3 weeks we'll fund government for, and then we'll fund it for another 3 weeks. We'll get into January, and then we'll really work on this. That's not how government's supposed to happen. I mean, we're supposed to have an annual budget bill, and you can do all the other things you need to do. And if all we're doing is funding things 2 or 3 weeks at a time, that's pathetic at best and borderline criminal.
Kind of sounds like running a broke radio station, Mark. Let me ask you,
but would you really want the government to run like that radio station?
No, not really. I don't even want to run a radio station like this.
Exactly.
Come on, this radio station is more fiscally responsible than the federal government right now.
We will be open on Saturday, I guarantee it. Mark, let me ask you, what about the DACA Dreamers? I've seen contradictory reporting about whether or not this problem will get solved. My understanding, very little legislative impetus coming from the Republicans to deal with this. Mark, will we have a resolution? Or are we going to have a bunch of young Americans or American wannabes shipped off to foreign countries in which they've never lived and are not enculturated?
Well, and that's the thing, is no one really wanted to do what Donald Trump did. He only did it for leverage for something else, right? Because he wanted to get something else down the road. So he made that executive order and created this whole problem for 700,000-800,000 people in this country. So I am one of the leaders of the group that's saying, I'm not going to vote for another continuing resolution until we have DACA taken care of, because it was an artificial reason why he did it for other reasons, and now we're somehow supposed to be responsible and vote for a continuing resolution when they don't even consult us on anything. I think the only answer you can have is, since they're so incompetent that they can't get Republicans to vote for spending for even a couple weeks at a time, is that we say no, that we get something. If you need our votes because we're responsible, and sometimes I think we're too responsible, then at least let's get something like DACA off the plate. This never should have been put on the plate. The president did it for all the wrong reasons. Let's not screw with 800,000 people's lives in this country.
But, Mark, they're not going to keep the government open without the votes of Democrats. I've seen the math somewhere along the lines of 50 Republicans and like 180 Dem votes will be needed. That doesn't leave a lot of room for error. Mark, if guys like you say, I'm not voting for it without DACA inclusion,
that means they got to come and talk to us. How about that?
But they don't intend to do that, sir. They intend to what? Shut down the government?
They got to get their people to vote for it. I think they will at the end of the day, because we're talking about funding government for 2 weeks. Like, this is pathetic. This is like so nothing. And the fact that they can't, I mean, great. Paul Ryan's going to get gray hair. Fine, because he's dealing with his crazy caucus. But funding government for 2 weeks is not a heavy lift. I mean, this is like not even 101 of government. And then, don't forget, even after that 2-week extension, they're only talking about another 3 or 4 weeks to get into middle January. I mean, this is the rock bottom. If you're in the majority and you can't do the most basic thing, which is keeping government open, you shouldn't be in the majority.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on WRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Congressman Mark Pocan joins us on the phone. Mark, you've been out of commission for a little while. Mueller is proceeding with his investigation. Of course, Flynn has been apparently rolled over, and he's going to cooperate, pled guilty to lying. Mark, you've had access to some information that the rest of us civilians have not. Want to get your take on what's happening, and what do you think is going to happen? Is this ramping up or ramping down?
I think it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is have a thorough, fair, objective analysis and look at every aspect of this issue. I think what we're all seeing, of course, is many things that we had kind of heard, and now we're seeing the maybe dots connected a little better.
Mark,
but, this isn't the end. I mean, they're still going up the food chain of where they're going after this. And, I think ultimately, the average person doesn't pass a smell test that there was no collusion with the Russians. I think we're starting to see more and more that probably is going to be what comes out of this. But this has been a very, I think, thorough and fair investigation. And, the Republicans, the fact that some are talking about turning it off because it's too expensive, when I think I saw an article, I forgot the amount of money that the president spends just on golf.
$7.5 million a month.
Yeah. I mean, they're not credible. And they just blew a $1.5 trillion hole in the deficit. They're not credible on that argument. So they have to let this thing proceed.
Mark, you've said on this show impeachment, and there was a resolution before the House of Representatives brought by a Democrat. It failed, Mark. A lot of Democrats did not go along. Is it a little too early to roll out the impeachment, sir?
The whole idea, if you're going to have impeachment, is you have to have the required votes you need from the House of Representatives, and clearly Republicans aren't there yet. So I think it was a mistake to pull it at this point. I think for many people that I've talked to privately on the phone in the last several weeks, they think because the investigation is doing its job, let it proceed, because that's going to make a much better case for Republicans to vote for it. So I think, honestly, yesterday was probably not the best use of time in doing that. But, I know some people got out early and said they were going to do it, and, they just wanted to get a vote in. And, in the end, I don't think it's an especially significant statement of anything other than I'm glad that the Mueller investigation has done what it's done, and I think that may be the catalyst we need if we're going to get to the point of actually having impeachment.
Mark, I've seen lots of denials by the Trump administration on Russian collusion, but we were reading in The Intercept yesterday Israeli collusion. In fact, apparently the Trump transition team was working against the wishes of the Obama administration. During the transition, they were reaching out to foreign countries, including Russia, on the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu, and they don't even seem to be denying this sort of interference, this collusion with the Israelis. Mark, is this a topic that's even been brought up on the Hill?
Not really yet, and maybe there's going to be more there, because clearly what happened yesterday was illogical by any fair measure, to all of a sudden do what every Democrat and Republican president has not done for the last several decades, which is declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel at a time that you don't have a peace agreement in place. What just happened is we've just now incited violence in that region, and I think you're going to see violence in the coming weeks in that region out of this. And we just took ourselves out of being a credible broker of peace because now it looks like we've chosen a side. So, again, Donald Trump doesn't do things the normal way, which is thinking about them first. And because of it, we pay these prices. And when you've got everyone from, Great Britain to Arab nations to the Pope saying that this is a wrong thing to do, you would think a normal president would then maybe just swallow their pride, but this president, being the narcissist he is, finds it impossible. And, here now we're watching some of the days of action in Palestine, and I've been several times in that region. And I'll tell you, the last time I was there, one of the things that really stuck with me, someone said, it's because of the non-peace between Israel and Palestine that ISIS is so good at recruiting people, because they use that as their prime example of what the U.S. is up to. And if we would actually get in there and do our jobs and actually help to try to broker peace, which we just completely threw out the door yesterday, we would have our most significant blow against ISIS. And instead, what we just did now is give ISIS a much stronger ability to re-recruit and maybe regain some strength, all because Donald Trump just did something without consulting people.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Congressman Mark Pocan. A few more minutes, we're catching up with him. Mark, I hate to do it to you, man, but I got to ask you about the headlines of the day. Let's start. Al Franken has resigned from the U.S. Senate effective a few weeks from now. Mark, want to get your reaction. A lot of Democratic senators came down against Al Franken, encouraged this resignation. Mark, what's your opinion?
I'll tell you, I think the part that I find difficult to connect to everything that's happening. I mean, it's great that there's finally an opportunity for women to be able to come out, and men, in some cases, to be able to come out and talk about the harassment they've received in the workplace and other places. And I think that that's very important. I'm glad to see Time magazine make it the cover of the issue of the year, Person of the Year. I think all those things are very positive. I think the part that I'm having a difficult time connecting is we have a president who's been accused by, 16 women. We've got Roy Moore running in Alabama. We've got Blake Farenthold, one of my colleagues, who had to pay out $84,000 for sexual harassment. And Paul Ryan didn't ask for his resignation, but they asked for John Conyers and Al Franken's. And I think the fact that there's such a complete difference in how it's being handled by the parties, I find that very problematic, because, again, it just kind of reinforces that good old boy, not everyone is equal treatment that the Republicans have, and the fact that they have seem to have no care that the president, Roy Moore, Blake Farenthold, and a whole lot of others can do this kind of behavior and go by unscathed.
Mark, so the governor of Minnesota will put a placeholder in there. Apparently this person would not run again. What's your thought on that? And why not someone like Keith Ellison, your buddy, in that spot?
Well, I think right now they're talking about, from what I understand, the lieutenant governor there, which would be fine as a placeholder. But you're right, when they talk about candidates, I saw Keith's name is on there, Betty McCollum's, Tim Walz, several of my colleagues from Minnesota. But, Keith would be awesome. He's a strong progressive. He would bring some diversity to the Senate, and I'll tell you, no one works harder than Keith Ellison. So, yeah, I haven't talked to him yet personally. Last time I talked to him was, a few weeks back while recuperating, but I hope he's thinking about it.
Mark, are you encouraged or discouraged that we as Democrats, we as progressives, seemingly are holding our elected leaders to a higher standard? I mean, should we lower ourselves to the level of the Republicans, or a guy like Dominic? I'm pointing at him in studio here, Mark. I mean, shouldn't we take the high moral ground on this? If we want to point towards Donald Trump and say, I believe his accusers, shouldn't we be okay with this decision on behalf of Al Franken?
Again, what I'm more concerned about is that there are no Republicans willing to take on the president, Roy Moore, although I guess a couple, Jeff Flake and Mitt Romney, but very, very rare, or Blake Farenthold right now. They're all sitting out there with no one saying that they should have to do the same thing that John Conyers and Al Franken did. So I'm really kind of...
But Mark, are we waiting for Republicans to do the right thing? I mean, it's going to take an electorate rising up to force Republicans either out of office or to do the right thing.
And maybe that's what's going to happen. But I do think regular people who happen to vote Republican, there are plenty of good people who know this is wrong. Republican elected officials, that's a different group, right? But still, it's amazing that when the president took on Al Franken, given his own 16 accusations, it's just he's such a hypocrite. And I think those are the things that amaze me, that this has not triggered Republicans to want to be more responsible. And part of why I think I'm always intrigued by Joe Scarborough, the fact that he actually now has left the Republican Party because he's watching this kill a political party that he used to represent and he still believes in. But he's watching the modern Republican Party aren't Republicans anymore. They've become Trumpites. It's like a cult. And I think, that's what's going to be their demise. And it's going to have effects in Wisconsin and across the country in 2018.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates. We've been missing you, man. Our best to Phil. You take care of yourself, Mark, and we'll catch up hopefully before the holidays, but certainly in the new year.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. That was our good friend Mark Pocan. Going to come back, perhaps a few phone calls. Going to talk about the John Doe 2 and maybe the John Doe 3. And we got Matt Rothschild in the next hour. So come back with us. Another big show, aren't they all? More Devil's Advocates, WRD 1510 AM.
Just might get some sleep tonight.
Good luck. We're all counting on you.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
Going through divorce is a very emotional time in someone's life, and when I went through my first divorce, I really needed someone to help me through the legal aspects of what my rights were. That's why I got in contact with Lawton & Cates.
The attorneys at Lawton & Cates. It's who you turn to for legal advice. 282-6200 or lawtoncates.com.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton & Cates.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Tune in to The Resistance, Monday through Friday beginning at 7 a.m. on News Talk 1510 a.m. From 7 to 9, it's The Earl Ingram Show. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and Daryl Ingram. The Tom Hartman program is next from 11 to 2. Then from 2 to 5, it's The Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join The Resistance, News Talk 1510 a.m. WRRD.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Waukesha, Milwaukee.
Oval Office Kumbaya. Franken resigns. I'm Michael Toscano.
We're all here as a very friendly, well-unified group.
President Trump surrounded by the Republican and Democratic leaders of Congress in the Oval Office, hoping to hammer out a budget deal before Uncle Sam's wallet empties out tomorrow night.
It's a well-knit-together group of people, and we hope that we're going to make some great progress for our country. I think that will happen.
First, though, the Democrats want the president to fulfill his promise to them to work out a deal to protect the Dreamers, who are currently about to face deportation. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi.
We're hopeful the president will be open to an agreement to address the urgent needs of the American people and keep government open. Democrats have never supported shutting down government, and we don't do so now.
Minnesota Democrat Al Franken gave up today, announcing he'll step down from the Senate in several weeks, having lost the support of his party over charges of groping women.
I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office, and a man who has repeatedly preyed on young girls campaigns for the Senate with the full support of his party.
In South Carolina, former North Charleston officer Michael Slager has been sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for violating the civil rights of Walter Scott, the unarmed black motorist he killed during a traffic stop in 2015. The Walter Scott family has forgiven him, they say, including his mother and his brother Anthony.
I have been able to forgive Michael Slager for killing my brother, and only until I had gotten forgiveness for him was I able to move forward.
If you're missing your package from UPS, well, the delivery company says it's adding extra crews and extending hours as it works through a backlog of Black Friday and Cyber Monday orders. Trading on Wall Street just ended and stocks closed modestly higher for the day. I'm Michael Toscano.
Chamonix's Christmas and holiday season sale is here, and it's really mind-blowing. Introducing the brand-new Genucel Droopy Eyelid Treatment. And here's Mary from Fort Collins, Colorado. I don't believe everything I hear, so I tried this eye lift on my right eye. The next day at work, everybody said my right eye looked better. I couldn't believe it. Yes, all these saggy lines in your eyelids gone in just days. And now this breakthrough eyelid treatment is yours free with your order of Genucel for bags and puffiness. Plus, you'll also get Genucel 12-hour immediate effects, a second gift free. So go to Genucel.com, that's Genucel.com, or call 800-457-8287. But now it gets even better. Order in the next 20 minutes and get 2 more classics. Esotique RF Collagen Builder and Deep Firming Serum. Free. Call or click in the next 10 minutes, and express shipping is also free. That's 5 free gifts. Order now to get this new Genucel offer and your free gifts while supplies last. Call 800-457-8287, 800-457-8287, or Genucel.com.
Ford says it is shifting production of an electric SUV from the U.S. to Mexico so it can make more self-driving vehicles in Michigan. Ford had said it was going to hire 700 workers to make cars at its Flat Rock plant near Detroit, including the electric SUV Ford now wants to make below the border. So what do you call your dog? Correspondent Jan Johnson reports Bella and Max. Hey, Max, topped the list of the most popular pup names this year.
The pet-centric website Rover says 44% of all dog names are human, with names inspired by powerful women like Oprah and Madonna climbing 21% from the previous year. Wonder Woman-themed names were up 45%. Other inspiration came from Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and even the Netflix series Stranger Things. On the masculine side, Charlie, Cooper, and Buddy were on top. Lucy, Luna, and Daisy were big picks for females. I'm Jan Johnson.
She is our Rover reporter. I'm Michael Toscano.
Are you putting your retirement savings in a 401k, IRA, or investment account? Then I have one word of advice. Stop. Many experts warn of a stock market crash any day now. And if it's anything like the last 2 crashes, you could lose 50% or more of your hard-earned savings in the Wall Street casino. Can you afford to lose half of your retirement savings again? Hey, you don't have to lose a penny because there's a better, safer way to save for retirement. And you can learn all about it in a free report. This is the report Wall Street and big banks desperately hope you never see. Why? Because this method continues to grow your money even when the market tumbles. It lets you take back control of your money and finances, and it gives you penalty-free access to your savings. Plus, it beats the pants off any 401k or IRA. These are uncertain times, so get the information you need today to guarantee your retirement security. To get this free report, go to bankonyourself.com right now. That's bankonyourself.com. Bank on.
Good afternoon. It is 3:05 for 1510 a.m. WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Here's some headlines for you. Milwaukee Alderman Russell Stamper said he will introduce a resolution to ensure that subcontractors will not carry guns on work sites. Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimmel has recommended contempt proceedings for a prosecutor and 8 other officials involved in the John Doe investigation of Scott Walker. Opponents of the Republican tax bill are planning a protest and march in downtown Milwaukee this Saturday. And the Occupational Safety and Health Administration has found 2 violations at a barrel plant in Oak Creek in an ongoing investigation. WRRD's Earl Ingram will be the special guest speaker on Monday evening at the monthly meeting of the Wisconsin chapter of our Wisconsin Revolution. And the Bucks beat the Pistons last night, 104-100. It's currently 26 degrees in Milwaukee, 23 in Waukesha for 1510 a.m. My name is Brian Kelly.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show. Mark Pocan helped dominate the first hour of this big show. We appreciate Mark. We've been missing the fine congressman from the great state of Wisconsin. Dom, I got a quick headline, and then we'll go back to the phones, 844-967-2789. Some patient listeners out there. Kelda Helen Royce, a former state rep, Democrat, announced today on a private Facebook page that she will be running for Wisconsin governor in 2018.
Oh, another one.
That makes 99 Democrats on the wall.
Take one down, pass it around.
98 Democrats on the wall. Dom, lots and lots of options on the Democratic side. We're going to get into the John Doe, too. We're going to talk about Scott Walker, the Wankinator. We're going to wanker bash perhaps for the next 2 hours of this show. But before we do, let's get back to some old friends. Don from Madison will be first. He's been waiting the longest. Don, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You made my day yesterday with all of your outrage over the John Doe announcement. You kind of made my point. So I want to make a follow-up point on that and then ask two questions. The point is that that's hardball, my friend. Remember I said hardball? That's hardball. The Republicans have power. They know how to use it. They're not afraid to use it. You know, they broke the laws, high and low. All of those guys did. But even though they've broken the law, they have no problems going out and incriminating. You know, even bald-faced lie incriminating some of the people who didn't do any wrong, and they don't care how they look. And then Mark Pocan kind of made my point of that. You know, Paul Ryan had no problem asking for Al Franken's resignation, but he didn't ask for Blake Fahrenholtz, the diaper. He's another diaper guy. There's a picture of him in a diaper.
What's it with Republicans in their adult-sized Depends?
I don't know. They don't like to pee or poop or somewhere in public. I don't know. But
they're tight-assed.
But my point is that they have no problem. Do as I say, not as I do. As I say, not as I do. So my question is now that Franken's gone, what do we get after that? I mean, what do we end up with that? And two, you say that it gives us hope. We have the hope that the people are going to come into line. They get it. We're standing up on our high moral principles and our high ground, standing up and saying, look at us, we're awesome. And we're going to hope that those people come out in droves. My second question is what evidence do you have that hope is founded on anything?
I feel it on the streets every day. Don, I'm telling you, man, people are waking up. There is a uprising going on. There is a resistance movement. I was in Washington, D.C. the day after the inauguration. Dom and I were there for the Women's March. You want to tell me what gives me such confidence that the electorate is rising up? It was that march that day and the subsequent actions we see each and every day on the streets here, all across the state of Wisconsin, all around the nation. I just cannot believe that the people of this nation will not rise up and throw these Republicans out on their ass. It is, to my memory, it has never been worse than this in our nation. And if not now, then I will move to Canada. If we continue to be okay with this. If we as Democrats take the high moral ground and, we get sand kicked in our face anyways, and the electorate says, you know what, yawn. We're okay with Roy Moore. We're okay with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gets reelected, no doubt I will leave the country, because this will not be a country that I will want to reside in.
844-967-2789. You may leave, Crudy. I'm staying right here. I'm going to fight. Because I didn't ask to be here. I'll be damned. I'm going to let people like Roy Moore and Donald Trump and those that support them run me out of town.
Hey, let's get to L.A. Tom, man. It's hot out there. Tom, how you doing?
Hey, guys.
How are the fires,
hey,
man?
guys.
I've been meaning to talk to my daughter. I'm a little nervous. She's out on the 405 getting fried right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But first off, we the people, I believe, still are the government. Second, yeah, the fires are bad, but it's fine. It's further enough away from us that we don't have to worry about that. So that's good. So people in Ventura and more north of us that have the problem. And of course, you probably saw the picture of the 405. Looked like it's going into hell on there, which is crazy. I just wanted to say that I think that when you look at the people that went toe-to-toe with some powerful politicians such as Anthony Weiner, when he was very, very much in favor of a single-payer health care system, and then went toe-to-toe with Scalia, then all of a sudden he, all that incrimination stuff came out on him, and I know it was his own choice to do what he did, but it was very interesting that they took him down pretty damn quick. And now all of a sudden you got Al Franken, who went toe-to-toe with Jeff Sessions and made a very, very good point and got him to recuse himself from the Russian investigations and all of that, and then all of a sudden he's going down. So I just don't buy the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, they all have skeletons in their closets.
Don't we all, Tom? I mean, I got some skeletons. They might not be of a sexual nature, but there are some things I wouldn't want to talk about if I were running for elective office. If I thought one guy ever got shafted worse than the rest, it was the former AG of the state of New York, Eliot Spitzer, paid for sex. My God, Tom, he exchanged money for a service. That's the one I think.
Same as the guy that got a round of applause by the Senate.
Bitter was embraced by his Republican caucus when he came back. Adult diapers, going to the prostitute hell. His poor wife had to stand there in her leopard print skirt and stand by her man. Well, you know what, Tom? I'm not for bringing, nothing to a gunfight. I'm not for unilateral disarmament of Democrats. But I'm certainly not for trying to rationalize or justify why we've got to keep ours, even if they've been
behaving as bad as the other guys.
Yes.
Well, I just felt in terms of the thing with Franken is that, what, they said they were going to have ethics. What do you call it? Ethics.
But Tommy didn't get fired. He resigned, buddy. He could have waited it out. He could have put his heels down.
I know that, and I know that he probably got a lot of pressure from the rest of the Dems with the 35 people signing the thing to get him out of there or whatever. But I think shame on them as well, because you know what? She'll let the ethics board, do what they had to do, and and then so be it from there.
All right, but here's the other. There's more to the story, though. Perhaps, though, Tom, is that what if there's more allegations out there? What if he realizes, maybe I could fight this, but it's going to, it's going to reflect poorly on this body, on my colleagues, on the government. I don't want to drag everybody through that. There's lots of things that may be going through his head that some scenarios that may have occurred that we are not aware of. Maybe this is the best move. He made his decision on his own. Certainly, there was a lot of pressure, but ultimately, Tom, it's his decision.
Tom, thanks a lot for the call. Really appreciate you listening out there in L.A. Give my daughter a hug if you see her, and be safe. Again, our condolences over the loss of your father. But we got some other phone calls. We want to get a few more friends in this segment, including David from Mequon. David, you're next. Welcome, sir. What's your thought?
Hey, guys. Listen, I think the one thing that I'm a little bit worried about is that everybody's rushing to judgment with certain things. In the meantime, when I say rushing to judgment, I do agree with the last caller. It could have gone through the ethics committee and all that other stuff. It's let it play out, because you do have another senator, Bob Menendez. People kind of forget about him. He's under the radar. He was charged with 18 counts of bribery and fraud, and I guess the judge would not even talk about the underage prostitution he was doing. But there has been no calls for him to resign.
Well, there have been some calls, maybe not publicly by U.S. senators, but
right.
Certainly, just because Menendez got off on a mistrial doesn't mean he wasn't guilty of something. And I'll call for it right now. He should also resign.
You're right. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because at the end of the
should
day,
Donald Trump resign?
If the allegations are true, yes, I do believe that he should.
Do you think they're true, sir?
I had to see all the, again, we had to see all the evidence that's laid out there.
How about the Access Hollywood tape? Do you think that's for realsies? Now he denies even that, David.
No, as far as, that was definitely him on the tape. I think it was very crude what he was saying. It was disgusting. But outside of that, again, we have to be very careful, because someone can accuse anybody of certain things, and then if we just say, hey, you're this type of person and now you got to leave your job, that's not the way it's supposed to work, because you got basically then anybody, there are false claims out there.
I have no doubt there are false claims.
And if there were false claims, I would imagine someone like Donald Trump would be very litigious about it.
Well, and I would point out, the only one I have given any grace to so far is Garrison Keillor. There was one accusation. He says it was a misinterpreted touch on the back. He said there was no investigation, and he was summarily dismissed. But when you see a pattern, Anthony Weiner, Tom brought up Anthony Weiner. There's a pattern there. The man's going to federal prison.
Well, if you're going to stand up, listen, if you're going to stand up against powerful people, you got to assume people are going to dig into your past. They're going to look for those things. That's how this is done, right? And if you're behaving like that, if you're like that Anthony Weiner, those things are going to come out.
But if it's a continuous pattern of behavior, if you are, a pedophile, if you are a perpetrator, these patterns play out over and over again. It's like they cannot help themselves. These are not, I got drunk one time and had a really bad lapse in judgment. These are ongoing, repeated accusations against a multitude of human beings, including Al Franken. And I love Al Franken too. I wish Al Franken didn't have this on his resume, but now Al Franken has resigned, and I'd like to move on quickly because we got to talk about some John Doe too. We got to set the record straight. I've got some exclusive information for our audience. Come back, more Devil's Advocates right here. News Talk 1510 AM WRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Did you ever eat a perfect peach? Flavorful and succulent, juice dripping from your mouth. That's what you can expect every time you shop at Pete's Fruit Market. A perfect peach or any other fresh produce to satisfy your taste buds. Try Pete's brand new, clean, bottled, full-service grocery store on Martin Luther King and North Avenue. Daily specials, organic fruits and vegetables, and always a perfect peach. Go to Pete's Fruit Market in Bronzeville. Tell them the Devil's Advocates sent you.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property, or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009, or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Me in the future. I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037. so he can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cool time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
We've got Jesse Pica-Holtz in studio with Solidarity Realty. Jesse, why on earth are you advertising in the Milwaukee area when you help buy and sell homes in Dane County?
Simple. Since Walker's policies have taken hold 7 years ago, most new job growth in Wisconsin has happened here in Dane County because of its progressive policies. And plenty of folks who commute to or from Madison already know that many rentals here are more expensive than a fixed mortgage.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Dane County, call Solidarity Realty or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, it's my job to make sure your network is up 99.999% of the time. Technology is constantly evolving, and keeping your business up to date in an ever-changing environment can be a hassle. At Five Nines, we're here to help. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. Better IT gives your business a competitive advantage. Learn how Five Nines can help at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate helps Wisconsin residents with health insurance sign-up. Whether you are currently uninsured or you get your insurance through the marketplace, you still have time to sign up or review your application before December 15th. Best of all, Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate helps you with your application at no cost to you. We help with every plan in Wisconsin, including several off-exchange options. We still have openings before December 15th's deadline. Call or text 414-797-3408 or visit us online at WIHIA.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Hey, Ike, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us today?
Fantastic. Thanks for taking a call. And I got to start off with my favorite wrestler, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
If the Wankinator was a wrestler, who do you think would most personify the current governor?
I got a great name for him, Scott the Shyster Walker. I think that should be his wrestling name.
I think it's already been used. I think it's his skateboard name, sir. Allegedly.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM WRRD. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. And always check out the website for interviews and podcasts. Download them for free. Listen to them anytime. DomandCrute.com.
Dominic, I hate to dissuade any of our callers, but we got to jump into a new topic. We've got a fine guest coming next. He is Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They are the campaign finance watchdogs. And here in the state of Wisconsin, we had some front page news on the John Doe 2. And Brad Schimmel, the partisan shill attorney general, had an 80-page report. Dom, you did a little research on that, but I'd like to remind you, once upon a time, and I quote a source, Business Insider, remember that day when Governor Scott Walker sent an email to Karl Rove, you know, the human ham, the guy from W's administration.
I do.
A bragging email about how he was coordinating with outside groups and breaking Wisconsin campaign finance law. I'm going to read briefly this one published at the Business Insider. 2 judges have ruled the investigation into whether Walker and his campaign were part of a scheme to illegally coordinate the activities of multiples should be halted. Documents were unsealed Thursday by a federal judge reviewing a lawsuit seeking to permanently stop the probe. Those documents included an email allegedly written by Wanker to Karl Rove on May 4th of 2011 that was cited by Special Prosecutor Francis Schmitz, that's the special prosecutor for the John Doe 2, in a response to a motion to quash the subpoenas issued as part of the investigation. In that email, Walker referred to a man named R.J. Johnson. Prosecutors described Johnson as central to the alleged coordination effort between Walker's official campaign organization, Friends of Scott Walker, and several other political groups. Schmitz claimed Johnson worked for or with Friends of Scott Walker, the Wisconsin Club for Growth, the Republican Senate Leadership Committee, and Citizens for a Strong America during the 2011 and 2012 Wisconsin State Senate and gubernatorial recall elections. Walker praised Johnson's efforts in an alleged email to Rove. Here's what the Wankinator said. Bottom line, RJ helps keep in place a team that is wildly successful in Wisconsin. We are running 9 recall elections, and it will be like running 9 congressional markets in every market in the state and the Twin Cities. Walker wrote, according to Schmitz. Speaking to reporters Thursday, Walker emphasized, and this is back from 2014 Summer Dom, Walker emphasized he had not seen the unsealed documents, but said he could not imagine he had communicated with Rove about Johnson's work. Thought he was a little better than that. So here is what I'd like to address next. Brad Schimmel, in his newest report, and the implication from the reporting is that Shane Falk, the former GAB staff attorney, you know, the one with the missing hard drive, that somehow it had disappeared nefariously, like Shane Falk had some responsibility. But Dom, when you actually jump into the findings of Schimmel, we find out, in fact, the hard drive was turned over to the GAB in April of 2014. And in fact, other emails were secured from that hard drive long after Shane Falk left the employment of the GAB. In fact, what does Schimmel report say about that?
On page 47, in his interview, Falk said that when he left employment at GAB, he turned his hard drive over to Judnick. Judnick admitted receiving the hard drive from Falk and stated he turned the hard drive over to staff attorney for the Ethics Commission, David Berger. No one from the former GAB staff, including Kennedy, Judnick, Falk, Beckner, or Nagapala, and no one from the current Ethics Commission, including staff attorney Berger and the Administrator Bell, has an explanation for what actually happened to this hard drive. Falk said he didn't, again, moving around in this piece, Falk said he did not remember, after investigators informed Falk that his hard drive containing the leaked documents was missing, Falk insisted he did not leak the documents to the Guardian and did not conspire with anyone else to release the documents. In a footnote on page 51 of Schimmel's release, after the interview, the DOJ investigators sought to establish independent evidence that Falk's hard drive had been turned over to Judnick when he left. The fact was confirmed as follows. In 2015, Kevin Kennedy and the GAB were sued in Waukesha County. In that, Judnick reviewed John Doe materials that could only come from Shane Falk's email. It was turned over. It wasn't Shane's issue.
But Brad Schimmel would imply that Shane Falk had somehow been the source of the leak and, in fact, nefariously had lost his hard drive. I question Brad Schimmel. What about the chain of evidence? You lost the hard drive. Matt Rothschild joins us next. More Devil's Advocates.
They'd like to take me out for a lot of reasons far bigger than just this election.
You're out of order! You're out of order! The whole trial is out of order!
Just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
On December 4th, 2017, an application was filed by New WRRD LLC with the Federal Communications Commission in Washington, D.C. for a new FM translator construction permit to serve Milwaukee, Wisconsin, operating on channel 269 with 200 watts ERP from a transmitter site with geographic coordinates of 43 degrees, 5 minutes, 46 seconds north, 87 degrees, 54 minutes, 15 seconds west, rebroadcasting WRRD 1510 AM, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
The Stephanie Miller Show is on twice daily, 6 to 9 p.m. and midnight to 3 a.m. You can stream The Stephanie Miller Show and all of our fine programming on newstalk1510am.com.
Scott Walker thinks Wisconsin should once again hire him as governor.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon.
This is a person who has not worked in the private sector since 1993.
You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP.
And has made his political career.
You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
By using divisive tactics to the benefit of his corporate donors.
First step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions. Right? Because you divide and conquer.
Now he supports the largest publicly funded government subsidy of a foreign corporation in American history.
You know, they can go suck lemons.
And Scott Walker has yet to live up to his first campaign promise to create 250,000 jobs.
Is this a campaign promise? Something you want to be held to?
Absolutely. Scott Walker, we the people are done sucking your lemons. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
What do current WRRD sponsors, guys like Lenny Mattioli, Crazy TV Lenny, now Crazy E-Bike Lenny, have to say about advertising with Wisconsin's only Resistance Radio? WRRD 1510 AM, would you call us a great radio advertising source or the greatest radio advertising source ever, sir?
Okay, first of all, my emotional answer is the greatest.
Yes.
Now a realistic businessman answer, okay? I would say equal to or better than any talk show style radio station that I've ever advertised on. The return on invested advertising dollar is as good on your station as I've ever seen. Right now, it's the best.
Be like Lenny. Advertise with News Talk 1510 AM. Call me, 414-635-0872, or email me, crute@newstalk1510am.com.
Good afternoon. It is 3:32 for 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Opponents of the Republican tax plan are planning a protest and march in downtown Milwaukee this Saturday. Late last Friday night, Republicans in the U.S. Senate approved the plan, which will cut taxes on corporations and wealthy Americans while raising the tax burden on the middle class and the working class over the next 10 years. The plan will also slash Medicare and cause millions of Americans to lose their health insurance. Protests and march are scheduled for this Saturday beginning at 2:30 at Paramount Park on the Milwaukee River downtown. Also, WRRD's Earl Ingram will be the special guest speaker on Monday evening at the monthly meeting of the Wisconsin chapter of our Wisconsin Revolution. Meeting is being held at the African American Women's Center at 3020 West Fleet Street in Milwaukee. Doors open at 5:30. For 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a fine guest joining us momentarily. He's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild with the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. But I just wanted to state the point we were making briefly once again. Dominic, Shane Falk has been pointed towards as the what? The leak, or at least that's what Brad Schimmel would like us all to believe.
They can't find Shane Falk's hard drive.
Due to the nefarious loss of a hard drive, but what we find out from Schimmel's own release in this investigation on the leaking, you know, the prosecutorial leaking, not the Eric O'Keefe conservative leaking, is that indeed Shane Falk turned over his hard drive in April of 2014, and in fact, emails were accessed off that hard drive, and the counsel, the former co-counsel of the GAB, Nate, initially took possession, turned it over to Dave Berger. Both of those attorneys still work for the Elections Commission. Shane Falk is in private practice, but you can tell that AG Schimmel would sure like the Wisconsin populace to think that Shane Falk has done this nefarious act.
It's not just the Attorney General, it's right-wing talk radio.
Well, absolutely, but we're left-wing talk radio, so let's bring our fine guest. He's Batman, he's Matt Rothschild. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Hey,
Just
Matt,
read
thanks.
this report.
It is perhaps one of the most slanted partisan reports I've ever seen, talking about Brad Schimmel's 80 pages of Republican hate on the investigators, the referees. How dare they possibly investigate the campaign corruption of Scott Walker and his cabal of donors, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, this was just a total whitewash of Walker, and saying that any suggestion that he may have done anything illegal was erroneous. They used the word erroneous or erroneously every time there's an allegation made against Walker. That just made me laugh going through the thing. And, you know, it was just one whitewash after another. There was the a revelation that there was a John Doe 3 investigation, though there hadn't been a prosecutor appointed, I don't believe, about Republicans doing campaign work on the people's dime, the people's time in the Capitol or in their government offices. And they whitewashed that, too. They said they had no evidence whatsoever of that. In fact, they conjured up or quoted from one email that said, I can't respond on my government line now because that would be illegal. And I've got to imagine there may have been some other evidence that may have suggested otherwise. But no, they wouldn't let anyone see any of that evidence. It was just a total hack, whitewash, up and down the line as far as I can tell.
Well, Matt, as near as I can tell, Schimmel takes the attitude that the corrupted campaign coordination between Friends of Scott Walker, Wisconsin Club for Growth, and these other organizations was always legal. And in fact, we know from the Wilcox case, the Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice John Wilcox, who personally paid a fine of $10,000 because he coordinated with an outside group in his re-election campaign. That happened in 1997. The GAB and state law, this was the precedent that we looked to, Matt, to demonstrate that coordination with outside groups in the state of Wisconsin was illegal when Scott Walker was doing it. In any whitewashing, as you describe it, after the fact doesn't change the fact, Matt, it was illegal when they were doing it. It may have been codified subsequently, but when they were doing it, it was illegal.
It was illegal, and what this report says that they say that the GAB attorneys had prejudged the guilt of Governor Walker and Wisconsin Republicans and related organizations, and that prejudgment dramatically influenced their ability to give competent legal advice. Now they're questioning their ability to give good legal advice, when in fact they were actually looking what the law said, and the law said you can't coordinate, and lo and behold, there was a mountain of evidence that Walker was coordinating until the Wisconsin Supreme Court waved its magic gavel and said the First Amendment of the Constitution says Wisconsin can't ban coordination between candidates and outside so-called issue advocacy groups. That's how they got off the hook, not that they'd given erroneous legal advice. And the GAB attorneys were just acting like any attorneys who are trying to track an alleged illegal action and cooperating with the special prosecutor. Of course, they were going to try to say, we think we've got somebody here who's committing a crime, and we're going to gather as much evidence. That's what investigators do.
Well, Matt, it wasn't even the GAB that initially triggered this investigation. John Chisholm, the Milwaukee County District Attorney, approached the GAB and asked about campaign finance law because he thought he had someone that was perhaps breaking campaign finance law. The Attorney General, then J.B. Van Hollen of the state of Wisconsin, was approached in January of 2013 after ruminating on the case for some matter of months, deciding whether or not he should be the right one to lead this multi-jurisdictional investigation. J.B. Van Hollen didn't say there's no merit here. He said he was conflicted. Too many of his buddies are caught up in this thing, and a special prosecutor had to be appointed, Francis Schmitz. Now, there were 5 independent DAs from 5 different counties that called for this. There was a unanimous vote by the GAB board. Matt, how they somehow make this out to be some sort of prosecutorial overreach is beyond me if anyone looks at the facts of the case.
Yeah, and that's what's being missed here. I mean, it's just, they're going after some petty stuff, like some documents weren't stored properly or weren't returned, within 24 hours of the judge's order or something like that. Whereas the major violations, which were the ones that triggered this John Doe investigation in the first place, they completely whitewash and say those allegations were erroneous at the beginning, when in fact they were actually vested in a correct interpretation of the law until the Wisconsin Supreme Court came along. And then, of course, there's this question about Eric O'Keefe of Wisconsin Club for Growth, who admitted and publicly bragged about violating judge's gag order. And, of course, what has Schimmel done about that? Did he prosecute Eric O'Keefe? No.
You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM. Matt Rothschild on the phone with us. Matt, you brought up the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I want to address that briefly. Bear with me here. In The Guardian, they talk about the U.S. Supreme Court. The prosecutors challenged, of course, Prosser, Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Prosser, not recusing, arguing, quote, the special prosecutor did not receive a fair and impartial hearing. They go on to discuss Prosser in detail. but the passage is so heavily redacted that their argument is obscured. They do say at one point, quoting constitutional law, that no jurist can be a judge on his own case or be permitted to try cases where he has an interest in the outcome. I think, well, that's strange. But then we realize Prosser was running for that seat against Kloppenburg at the same time as the recall election was going on. And apparently, many people in the conservative circles were very concerned that if Prosser loses, Kloppenburg gets in. What, they're gonna overturn?
They'll roll back Act 10.
Act 10. And of course, Prosser later came out, Matt, and said, well, you know, if this had happened a year ago, I would have recused, but it was 4 years, and so he didn't. And he issued a 12-page justification on defending himself, in that he makes reference from an unnamed petitioner that discussed raising money for a campaign to maintain the court. The judge said the comment was little more evidence of the fact that some targets of investigation engaged in expenditures under all circumstances that were very valuable to my campaign. Here's the issue, Matt. The unnamed petitioner that was talking about campaigning with Judge Prosser, who was running for election at the same time these recalls and this coordination was happening, was R.J. Johnson, the general consultant to Governor Scott Walker. Oh, yeah, and he works for Wisconsin Club for Growth. So what does that mean to me, Matt? It means we have the judiciary coordinating and working with the executive branch, right? And Wisconsin, state senators to circumvent any sort of laws to prop themselves up, of course, paid by the moneyed interest. This is just a terrible conspiracy in my own mind, and I don't know if it's necessarily free speech.
Well, to me, I mean, first of all, Prosser had an obligation to recuse himself and get off this John Doe case, because he had benefited to the tune of more than $2 million from some of the people who were being investigated by the John Doe prosecutor, namely Wisconsin Club for Growth and Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. But then also, as you mentioned, Prosser in his statement as to why he didn't recuse himself suggested that he was engaging in might have been engaging in some of the same kinds of activities that were being prosecuted by the John Doe prosecutor. So the whole thing is so pathetic, really, how corrupt our government has become, how corrupt our Wisconsin State Supreme Court is now, how corrupt our Attorney General's office is. Brad Schimmel's office is just a law office for the Republican Party of Wisconsin and for Scott Walker in the interests of the Republican majority in the legislature and on the Supreme Court. That's who they represent. They don't represent the people of Wisconsin.
Matt, let's talk about the John Doe 3. This was new news as far as I was concerned when this story broke yesterday. There apparently was going to be an investigation of Leah Vukmir, Van Wangard, Mark Line, a number of Republican senators that were either under specific recall or perhaps were campaigning on the company dime on behalf of other senators up for recall. Now, I see Leah Vukmir out there playing the victim card pretty harshly earlier today, Matt. Apparently some of her emails were caught up, but the Queen of Alec, in fact, was the very one that drafted the legislation to eradicate the GAB. Matt, do you think it's possibly because she was under prior subpoena, maybe a little vengeance in her heart?
Well, it may have been. I mean, I don't know, what's in that heart of Leah Vukmir's actually. But I do think, the Republicans up and down the line wanted to get rid of the John Doe prosecution because they wanted to be the only people in the whole state of Wisconsin who can't be reached by a John Doe prosecutor are now elected officials. So they got a get-out-of-jail-free card for eternity, and the Wisconsin Supreme Court gave Walker a get-out-of-jail-free card when they dismissed the John Doe prosecution. So, it's all very sweet as far as the Republicans go, and they don't have many grounds to complain. And we wouldn't have known about these emails until, this investigation by Schimmel came out. So it's not like everybody in the world was knowing about these emails with Leah Vukmir. And prosecutors and attorneys working on investigations, they vacuum up a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that's not ultimately relevant. So it's not shocking to me that they got some emails that weren't really directly related to what they were investigating.
Hey, Batman calls for speculation, but we see a handful of Republican federal office holders also on this list from the Schimmel investigation of the leak to The Guardian. Ron Johnson comes to mind. Pat Duffy comes to mind. But I would point out The overarching accusations is that Scott Walker wasn't raising money for Scott Walker. Scott Walker was going for corporate money, for billionaire money, and he was having the checks written to Wisconsin Club for Growth, where R.J. Johnson also worked, not only for his campaign, but for Wisconsin Club for Growth. They were funneling these millions, these grandiose dollars for Scott Walker's support. Damn it, man, I forgot what the overarching question was.
Well, I mean, for instance, the corporations, they couldn't write checks to the Republican Party of Wisconsin. That would have been illegal. They couldn't write $1.5 million checks to Scott Walker, re-elect Scott Walker, or for anybody else's recall race, because there were limits imposed at that time. So the only way they could give that kind of money was through a third-party issue advocacy group, which was conveniently Wisconsin Club for Growth. That's why Walker sat on the laps of people like Sheldon Adelson or the lead manufacturer in Texas or John Menard, and some of these guys wrote checks out for 7 figures, and then the memo line said, because Scott Walker asked me to. But the check was made out to Wisconsin Club for Growth because they could give unlimited amounts of money there.
I remember the analogy I was trying to draw. We know that our friend Ron Johnson, in fact, was at a Palm Spring Koch brothers event. He was caught by Politico, now with the New York Times, Ken Vogel. And Ken Vogel found him telling a billionaire, don't write checks directly to my campaign. Far better to give it to the Koch brothers network. It's not traceable. It can be corporate, and it's sweet, sweet tax deductible. Matt, how do you think these federal office holders, I'm not making any allegations of illegal campaigning on behalf of Ron Johnson or Duffy, but do you think they knew that the governor was perpetrating illegal campaigning? I mean, this came from the top. They were in conversations with Karl Rove, and certainly Reince Priebus played a part in this coordinated effort.
Yeah, I did see Reince Priebus' name there. I mean, look, after the Citizens United decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that said corporations could give unlimited amounts in elections, and also the right to life case, you know, allowing these third-party groups to spend unlimited amounts of money, that's what's created the possibility for this mess. And so I'm not surprised to see it happening nationally with Johnson saying, don't write the check out to me, write it out to the Koch brothers. And here in Wisconsin, however, we had a law on the books that said you can't do it in Wisconsin. And then what the Wisconsin Supreme Court said was, yes, you can. And so that's why we're in this mess here.
Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, joins us on the phone. Matt, I have a real issue with the corrupted Wisconsin Supreme Court. I expect politicians to be a little shady. I would think, I personally hold, the Supreme Court up a little higher. Perhaps I should not. We talked about Prosser. Of course, now he's no longer there. How convenient is that? But in the dissent, Shirley Abrahamson had a footnote where she says this: the special prosecutor states that the John Doe investigation is premised in part on a reason to believe that certain express advocacy groups who had filed sworn statements indicating they acted independently of certain campaign committees did not, in fact, act independently, despite the majority's opinion invalidating the special prosecutor's issue advocacy-based theory of criminal activity. This express advocacy-based theory lives on, and I think some of the release from The Guardian, and I think it may be, and I'm not clear, but perhaps the Republican State Leadership Committee, and I think perhaps some arm of the Republican Governors Association or something.
Yeah,
like
it was a registered express advocate in the state of Wisconsin, and apparently coordinating with the Friends of Scott Walker campaign, a bright legal line that they crossed that was never really addressed by the Wisconsin Supreme Court, was it, Matt? And when Francis Schmidt brought it to the courts, they said, you're fired, and burned the evidence.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't fire him fast enough, and they had an opportunity to do so. And he's a Republican, and honest as the day is long, and they're just trying to besmirch his reputation ever since. I mean, what Shirley Abrahamson was pointing to was the fact that the Wisconsin Supreme Court said if you're a candidate, you can coordinate with issue advocacy groups, but you can't coordinate with express advocacy groups, those groups that say vote for this candidate or don't vote for that candidate. There was evidence that the John Doe 2 prosecutor, Francis Schmidt, discovered that actually candidates were coordinating with these express advocacy vote for, vote against groups, and that would still be illegal today in Wisconsin. So why didn't the Wisconsin Supreme Court let Francis Schmidt continue his prosecution of that express advocacy alleged violation? Why? Because they wanted the whole thing to go away.
He's our campaign finance vigilante. He's Batman. He's Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt, thank you so much for what you do and joining us here today on the Devil's Advocates.
My pleasure, fellas.
Thanks,
Take
Matt.
care. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back. More Devil's Advocates. Come back with the same Bat channel after this short break.
They'd like to take me out for a lot of reasons far bigger than just this election.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I am not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Dom and Crute special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. You're neutral to it. You hear it every time you finish a meal and never feel anything. But if we were able to associate this sound with a new stimulus, save the food, we've achieved pulling a natural response from you. Save the food. Why are we doing this, you may ask? Save the food. Because this ad is trying to change your after-meal behavior through brainwashing. Because food waste costs the average family $1,500 a year. Save the food, cha-ching, and $1,500 extra bucks is like getting a pay raise. Save the food, cha-ching, you're promoted, which could pay for your child's braces. Save the food, cha-ching, you're promoted.
Check out my braces.
So when you hear this sound, rethink your behavior. Cook it, store it, share it. Just don't waste it. For tips and recipes, visit SaveTheFood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
Tune in to The Resistance, Monday through Friday beginning at 7 a.m. on News Talk 1510 a.m. From 7 to 9, it's The Earl Ingram Show. From 9 to 11, take a deep dive into Milwaukee news and Wisconsin politics on 414 Wisconsin with Brian Kelly and Daryl Ingram. The Tom Hartman program is next from 11 to 2. Then from 2 to 5, it's the Devil's Advocates with Dom and Crute. Join The Resistance. News Talk, 1510 a.m. WRRD.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience, the only choice, Lawton and Cates.
I needed an attorney because I was injured at work. I wanted to find a reputable attorney. The results that I got with Lawton and Cates were very good. I'm very happy with the way I was treated and the end result that I got.
Trust the voice of experience. Call the attorneys at Lawton and Cates, 282-6200, 282-6200.
Hey folks, sexy liberal Stephanie Miller here. Most new Wisconsin jobs are in Dane County, it's true. Some of my listeners are relocating to Madison. Many already commute there. When asked where to turn for a trusted real estate team that understands Madison, I say the same thing. Solidarity Realty. They help you through the process and protect your consumer rights. They live their values building community, promoting sustainability and diversity. Find them today at solidarityrealty.com and tell them Stephanie Miller sent you.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we're back. Thanks for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Where are you at? 844-967-2789.
Want to thank Matt Rothschild, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Always a fine guest, a friend of ours. Let's recap briefly, Dom.
All right.
Wilcox case told us that coordination with outside groups was illegal under Wisconsin state law. We already had precedent set. Decided case. You remember the smoking man, Mark Block, eventually went to work for Herman Cain. He was barred from campaigning in the state of Wisconsin over this coordination. So there's no doubt it was illegal. And Scott Walker chose to do it anyways. R.J. Johnson, the center of this hub, was funneling money. And let's not forget, R.J. Johnson was doing so at great personal enrichment. Every time you take $1 million and you invest it in radio advertising or TV advertising, you get to take 15% off the top. Now, he funneled, $20 million or more and got to take 15% off the top of $20 million? That's more than $3 million that R.J. Johnson got to personally enrich himself with just coordinating the ads.
Good deal if you can get it.
And so this investigation started. Let's not forget the John Doe 1. They can say no criminality. Look at the convictions. There were people campaigning on county executive time, working for Scott Walker. He had an illegal router in his office. He's got one guy embezzling money from the veterans, a position Scott Walker assigned him to. And then the John Doe 2 came down. And J.B. Van Hollen kind of jammed it up. And Scott Walker and Wisconsin Club for Growth, Eric O'Keefe, through their lawyers, they were masterful in stopping the prosecution of what was criminal activity at the time. Now, here we are, looking back, and there's an investigation of the Guardian leak. And Brad Schimmel, the hack attorney general of the state of Wisconsin, says, no provable criminality, yet I'm going to persecute the prosecutors who were just upholding the campaign finance laws of the state of Wisconsin as they were written and decided at the time. And if I can't charge them with crimes, then I'm going to besmirch them. I'm going to take a guy like Shane Falk. I'm going to claim his hard drive is missing. Only Shane Falk turned his hard drive into the GAB. So this is a fiction. This is a partisan witch hunt, mostly to cover Scott Walker's ass because he was the corrupt bastard at the center of all this. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocate. A new fine sponsor is next.
Is a complete lack of respect for the law.
You Becky, Stan.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus. And it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and he puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that
I'm using facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Did you ever eat a perfect peach? Flavorful and succulent, juice dripping from your mouth. That's what you can expect every time you shop at Pete's Fruit Market. A perfect peach or any other fresh produce to satisfy your taste buds. Try Pete's brand new, clean, modern, full-service grocery store on Martin Luther King and North Avenue. Daily specials, organic fruits and vegetables, and always a perfect peach. Go to Pete's Fruit Market in Bronzeville. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
I'm State Representative Jocasta Zamaripa.
And I'm Joel Clayfish.
Listen to us on the Joel and Jocasta Show, Saturdays at 3 p.m.
She's a Latina woman from the inner city of Milwaukee, and I'm a white guy from the suburbs. Diversity in the white guy. You are not going to believe what you hear on this show. I'm telling you, you're going to have to listen. News Talk, 1510 a.m., WRRD.
Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 a.m., Waukesha, Milwaukee.
Chuck and Nancy and Donald, high school horror. I'm Michael Toscano. The Democratic leaders of Congress trooped into the Oval Office this afternoon to hammer out a budget deal with President Trump as funding expires tomorrow night. Bob Costantini tells us they all made nice, at least in front of the media.
It was as cordial as could be.
It's a well-knit-together group of people.
President Trump hosted Chuck and Nancy, as in Schumer and Pelosi at the White House, to avoid a shutdown and maybe make progress toward long-range appropriations.
Funding the government is extremely important. Helping our soldiers is very important, and helping average citizens is very important.
We have some important issues that we share with you. You have described the opioid crisis in our country. We want to address that, help our veterans.
Republican leaders in the room are ready to bend over backwards to avoid a shutdown, especially with tax reform close to being finalized.
All right, thanks, Bob. The small New Mexico town of Aztec shocked today when a high school student shot and killed 2 other classmates.
Everyone just sat there really, really scared. And then my teacher finally told us that she got news that there was an active shooter. And so we were all in the corner really scared, and we could just hear shots and the helicopter coming.
Police say the shooter is dead. Rampaging fires in Southern California with evacuations around parts of the Los Angeles area, San Diego County, and Santa Barbara County. Correspondent Kyung La comes in now from somewhere near Los Angeles.
The wind gusts here in some parts of inland Los Angeles County, the wind gusts are hurricane force winds. So the concern here, trying to keep people alive, making sure they don't return to these burned out areas, even though it looks like there's no fire, in case there are wind gusts and small embers.
Minnesota Democrat Al Franken says he will leave the U.S. Senate in a few weeks. Franken saying he wanted to make his case to the Ethics Committee, but it's not fair to the people of his state.
It's become clear that I can't both pursue the Ethics Committee process and at the same time remain an effective senator for them.
I'm Michael Toscano.
This is Mike Reagan for Newsmax. In 1985, my father, President Reagan, put an ownership cap on the big TV networks like NBC, ABC, and CBS. His FCC barred them from owning local TV stations reaching more than 25% of the U.S. But now, the FCC is gutting this network cap, letting networks like NBC and CBS own stations that will reach almost 80% of America. President Trump campaigned against the concentration of media power. We need to stop the FCC's dangerous plan. If this radical FCC plan goes through, the big networks will own almost every TV station in America, and conservatives won't get a fair shake. Don't let the big New York networks control your local news. I am urging you to call your congressman and senator. Then sign my petition to Congress at stopthefccplan.com. That's stopthefccplan.com.
It is the 7th day of December, a date that causes us to look back.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
President Franklin Roosevelt on the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, setting off U.S. entry into World War II. At the White House this afternoon, President Trump joined by a small but animated group of Pearl Harbor survivors.
One great battle cry could be heard, remember Pearl Harbor. Have you heard that before?
Remember Pearl Harbor as we go to meet the foe. Just remember Pearl Harbor as we did the Alamo. We shall always remember how they died for liberty. Just remember Pearl Harbor and go on to victory.
Yeah.
I'm Michael Toscano.
Are you putting your retirement savings in a 401k, IRA, or investment account? Then I have one word of advice. Stop. Many experts warn of a stock market crash any day now. And if it's anything like the last 2 crashes, you could lose 50% or more of your hard-earned savings in the Wall Street casino. Can you afford to lose half of your retirement savings again? Hey, you don't have to lose a penny because there's a better, safer way to save for retirement. And you can learn all about it in a free report. This is the report Wall Street and big banks desperately hope you never see. Why? Because this method continues to grow your money even when the market tumbles. It lets you take back control of your money and finances, and it gives you penalty-free access to your savings. Plus, it beats the pants off any 401k or IRA. These are uncertain times, so get the information you need today to guarantee your retirement security. To get this free report, go to bankonyourself.com right now. That's bankonyourself.com. Bank on your
Good afternoon. It is 4:05 for 1510 AM WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly with some local headlines for you. Milwaukee Alderman Russell Stamper said he will introduce a resolution to ensure that subcontractors will not carry guns on work sites. Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimel has recommended contempt proceedings for a prosecutor and 8 other officials involved in the John Doe investigation of Scott Walker. Opponents of the Republican tax bill are planning a protest and march in downtown Milwaukee this Saturday. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration has found 2 violations at a barrel plant in Oak Creek in an ongoing investigation. WRRD's Earl Ingram will be the special guest speaker on Monday evening at the monthly meeting of the Wisconsin chapter of Our Wisconsin Revolution. And the Bucks beat the Pistons last night, 104-100. Currently, it's 23 degrees in Milwaukee and 22 in Waukesha. For 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, we're sliding into the 4 o'clock happy hour, and I'm happy to introduce a fine new guest. She is Sadie Tischer. She is with the Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate, LLC, and she's a new sponsor here on WRRD. Welcome, Sadie.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Hey, thank you, Sadie.
Well, Sadie, we're very excited to have you on board, and you got a date that's very important for our audience to be aware of. What is December 15th? Why is that so important, Sadie?
Yes, very important. December 15th is the absolute last day for open enrollment for people who get their insurance through the health insurance marketplace or an off-market plan. So these are folks who don't have access to other insurance like through an employer, Medicare, or Medicaid. People like me who are self-employed and buy their insurance through the marketplace. That's their deadline to finish their enrollment.
And Sadie, that is something of an abbreviated deadline over prior years. Is that my understanding?
Yes. The current administration cut the deadline in half. It used to run November 1st through January 31st. So we've had half the time to do the same amount of people, and those procrastinators may not be aware that that December 15th deadline is different this year than last year's deadline.
Sadie, a lot of people probably have a lot of confusion going on with Obamacare under the circumstance. Let me ask you, those that are in the federal exchanges that receive federal subsidies, to the best of your knowledge, will they continue to receive federal subsidies, and what can they expect for health insurance premiums for 2018?
Sure. Yes, they will continue to receive subsidies. So the administration cut what's called cost-sharing reductions, and it was some of the payments that these health insurance companies who offer us insurance get in reimbursement for the plans that they offer. So what we've seen this year is that the insurance companies raised their rates knowing that they would still get reimbursed through the premium, but they'd no longer get those cost-sharing reductions. So for individuals on the marketplace, not a whole lot has changed right now. We've definitely seen prices increase, but people who get a subsidy are still getting a pretty decent deal on the marketplace. Now, for people who have a little bit of higher income, they are experiencing really dramatic premium increases this year.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine new sponsor. Her name's Sadie Tischer. She is with Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate, LLC. And Sadie, for those listening to us in southeastern Wisconsin, you are not limited in the area you serve. You can serve anywhere in the state of Wisconsin, is my understanding.
That's correct. We serve all of the state of Wisconsin.
And Sadie, your agency, your organization is not limited just to federal exchange. You can also do off-exchange programs. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. We offer all of the different plans that are offered off-exchange. There's one company that just offers off-exchange policies, and then several of the companies who offer marketplace plans also offer off-exchange. And the plans look fairly similar. The difference with off-exchange is that you're not getting a subsidy. Some of those prices are a little bit lower for people who don't get that subsidy. So I've had a lot of my self-employed folks who make a little bit more income. They've been switching to off-market policies. Those policies still have to meet all the same requirements as the on-market plans as far as the coverage that they offer. So premiums are not cheap in anywhere that we're seeing in health insurance, but we've known that for quite a while.
Sadie, I am a small group employer in the Madison area, to different from my own. And each and every year we play this insurance roulette. And for a number of years, we've been keeping the current policy because it is so much cheaper to keep the known evil than to go out there and jump out into the exchange or into a different small group policy that was fully Obamacare compliant. The fully compliant policies were significantly higher. Well, we've been proposed a double-digit increase in premiums, but let me ask you, where do we stand on Obamacare compliance? Are we to the point, do we even need to worry about that as consumers?
Well, as it stands right now, yes, we do still need to worry about that as consumers. You know, in Congress, they've been working on this tax bill that includes a repeal of the individual mandate. That doesn't change any of the other legal rules of the Affordable Care Act, such as minimum essential coverage. So folks who have grandfathered plans through an employer, those plans are still meeting the insurance requirement. It's just the companies can no longer sell those plans that have pared down benefits that don't meet the Affordable Care Act rules. So we are seeing a lot of groups who have grandfathered plans trying to keep those plans. I will tell you, because I do also do group insurance for small employers under 50, and we are finding that most small business plans, the per-person premiums are significantly lower than the on-exchange premiums. So I've had quite a few small business owners who have this year shifted back into group policies.
Well, Sadie Tischer from the Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate, LLC, welcome aboard WRRD. These are complex conversations. We're not going to solve these problems on the phone. People are going to need of your time between now and December 15th. How can they get a hold of you, Sadie?
Yes, we are scheduling appointments still for next week. Our phone number, you can call or text, and that number is 414-797-3408. And our website is www.wihia.com. And I'll just repeat the phone number, 414-797-3408.
Sadie Tischer, thank you so much. Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate. Give her a call December 15th. It's a big deal.
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we are a daytime AM radio station, this now concludes our broadcast day. But you don't have to leave us. We do stream online 24/7 at newstalk1510am.com. That's newstalk1510am.com. Or check us out on the TuneIn app at WRRD 1510am. For those of you already streaming, we now continue regular programming, and please welcome your friends from the radio station. Say hi, everyone. News Talk 1510 AM, WRRD, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate helps Wisconsin residents with health insurance sign-up. Whether you are currently uninsured or you get your insurance through the marketplace, you still have time to sign up or review your application before December 15th. Best of all, Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate helps you with your application at no cost to you. We help with every plan in Wisconsin, including several off-exchange options. We still have openings before December 15th's deadline. Call or text 414-797-3408 or visit us online at wihia.com.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exodus.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
Hi, this is Brad Saug, owner of Zero Res Madison Carpet Cleaning. Zero Res is the best new technology in carpet cleaning. We have a patented process using empowered water, a high-tech process in which we force the water to act like soap. It doesn't want to stay in that state. It's jacked up and it's angry and it wants to hit the dirt and then it neutralizes. When we're done, all that's left in your carpet is just light moisture. In the end, you get the cleanest, greenest, healthiest carpet cleaning available. Call us at 848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it backward or forward. It's the right way to clean.
We've got Jesse Pica-Holtz in studio with Solidarity Realty. Jesse, why on earth are you advertising in the Milwaukee area when you help buy and sell homes in Dane County?
Simple. Since Walker's policies have taken hold 7 years ago, most new job growth in Wisconsin has happened here in Dane County because of its progressive policies. And plenty of folks who commute to or from Madison already know that many rentals here are more expensive than a fixed mortgage.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Dane County, call Solidarity Realty or find them at solidarityrealty.com. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM, WRRD, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, at Devil Radio, and on the phones, toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we would like to thank our most recent guest, a fine new sponsor. Her name's Sadie Tischer with Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocate, LLC. A few quick notes, Dom. You can get advised without spending money at no cost to you.
Nice.
So please give them a call or text them at 414-797-3408 or visit them online at wihia.com, wihia.com.
All right.
Thank you, Sadie.
Yeah, thank you, Sadie. Curdy, I'm still a little PO'd about this whole John Doe thing, man. And
the Republicans told you it was a really bad thing, and it was so bad, and they're all victims, and it was unconstitutional, Dom. How dare they investigate their campaign corruption?
Let's see here from our friends over at the Wheeler Report. Speaker of the Assembly, Robin J. Voss.
This one stings a little. He's taking a little glee and sticking it to the referees today.
He had a statement on the DOJ's John Doe report.
He appeared on the Schimmel list, did he not, Speaker Voss?
He did. This report confirms what Republicans have known to be true for years. The Government Accountability Board staff acted as though they were above the law. All right, let me just pause right there.
In what way?
If If a corrupt judge tells you to do something, I mean, I look at the Wisconsin Supreme Court as being corrupted right now.
Sure, I don't disagree.
Is it your obligation to, as a law enforcer, investigator, to follow through and listen to corrupt judgments?
No, but I'm not at all clear understanding the point you make once it got to trial.
Right.
But the implication, this above the law stuff, is that somehow they preemptively decided to go rogue. That's how I heard it being described. These GAB nonpartisan investigators, 6 retired judges, 3 of whom are Republicans, they somehow went rogue. Or they were boonswoggled by the oh-so-shrewd GAB staff attorney Shane Falk. They didn't have the mental capacity to what? Think that this guy was above the law and somehow he was misleading them. And even though it was against campaign finance laws in the state of Wisconsin, I point you again to the Wilcox case and the financial settlements made and the precedent set here in the state of Wisconsin. What above the law? They went to J.B. Van Hollen, said it's a multi-jurisdictional investigation. J.B. Van Hollen, Republican, had first crack at this. After sitting on this for 4 or 5 months, Van Hollen didn't say without merit. Van Hollen said, no, I'm conflicted. I got too many buddies entangled in this web. And then and only then did they approach Kluka, the judge, and say, will you please assign a special prosecutor? So, again, they followed. And I would point out, 5 independent attorneys general, or pardon me, district attorneys,
yes, from 5
including a
counties.
Republican from Iowa County,
yes,
also saw the merits of investigating these clear violations of campaign finance law. So when you, Speaker Voss, talk about above the law, you clearly must mean the Walker administration and the cabal that was coordinating with outside groups. I mean Wisconsin Club for Growth. I mean Scott Walker. And perhaps, sir, I saw your name on the list. Did you also get a get out of jail free card, Mr. Voss?
Mr. Voss continues. We have a mountain of evidence that clearly shows an abuse of power for partisan purposes. Democrats must now accept the fact that Republicans were right. The GAB was not, underlined, a model for the country. It was a rogue agency where partisan behavior ran rampant and went completely unchecked. The GAB will go down in Wisconsin history as a failed experiment. The secret, unconstitutional John Doe investigations will be remembered for their blatant breach of personal information and the silencing of free speech. Thankfully, the GAB and John Doe investigations are history, and this threat to democracy in Wisconsin is behind us.
Well, I will not forget, Robin Voss, you called special session. And we had a fine listener of this program, Sheila Plotkin. Do you remember Sheila, Don?
I do.
Sheila did open records requests to find out how many of Robin Voss' fine constituents actually wanted the destruction of the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Board. Now, this was created by Mike Ellenson. First, they took out the former Republican Senate Majority Leader through the assistance of Project Veritas. I would remind people that Eric O'Keefe, Wisconsin Club for Growth, wrote the check to Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. And, you know, Mike Ellenson got a little drunk at the bar. And he spouted, you know what he claimed he might do?
Coordinate with third-party groups.
Yes.
And that he
shamed him out of the Wisconsin Senate.
And then
resigned
what did Republicans in this state engage in and then later codify with special session? Well, coordination with third-party advocacy groups.
Destruction of the GAB, written by Leah Vukmer.
Was that also when they tried to get rid of open records? Was that the same time? Or was that
no, that was in the Wisconsin state
summer.
budget.
Okay.
No, that was a different attempt at destroying the democracy. What's he say about destruction of democracy? I mean, literally.
Yeah, thankfully. This is what Speaker Voss said today in his statement. Thankfully, the GAB and John Doe investigations are history, and this threat to democracy in Wisconsin is behind us.
If this is indeed true, if Robin Voss is the shrewd one here, and I am the crazy lefty, then why have no other states adopted the Wisconsin Supreme Court and Robin Voss's unique interpretation of campaign finance laws in coordination?
We're ahead of the curve, man.
It would be illegal under Citizens United. In fact, I think it was one of the conservatives on the court that said, of course, you can only accept the uncapped corporate third-party donations to independent groups because, of course, you can expect no coordination because these would be effectively corporate donations directly to campaigns. That's effectively what they are. And let's not forget, that's exactly what Scott Walker accepted.
Well, it's not just Scott Walker. Again, Prosser coordinated with R.J. Johnson as well and then turned around and voted on this case. I mean, he wasn't just the recipient of dollars from these different dark money organizations, Crudy. He was actively communicating with them. That makes this whole deal a conspiracy. That's my point.
And you
Mr.
mean
Robin
Prosser's
Buss.
concurrence more like a confessional?
Yes, absolutely. I want to get a little bit of sound here. Help me lay this one out, Crudy, if you would. Brad Schimmel, this is back in 2014, had a conversation. I believe this is Bice.
Before it went to the state courts, there was a federal court, and Rudolph Randa, something of a partisan hack, the now departed Rudolph Randa, took the first crack at making a ruling on whether or not it was permissible to coordinate the campaigns. In the case, they were trying to stifle the investigation through the federal courts through Randa's jurisdiction. And Randa ruled effectively with the Republicans. Randa said coordination is permissible. But at that time, Brad Schimmel, the same guy that issued this 80-page report yesterday, seemed much less confident about whether or not Randa's ruling might hold up.
Play cut 1, please. Daniel Bice asking Randa about coordinating with outside groups when he was running for Wisconsin's Attorney General.
We're going to proceed very cautiously. This is a federal district court decision. It's probably not the end of the line on this question. And we're going to proceed very cautiously. And we're not coordinating with outside groups on what they're going to present.
What?
Not doing it.
If it's completely constitutional, why would you not take advantage of that like the governor of the state of Wisconsin so clearly did?
And now in his report, he refers back to what the erroneous assumptions of those who would look at the situation and say, well, they never should have gone after them for that, when he himself, even after a Republican federal judge ruled in his favor, was going to be so very cautious and not coordinate with outside groups. You can't have it both ways, Attorney General Schimmel.
You know, Daniel Bice did ask Schimmel if he had advice to offer to the Walker campaign. Should you coordinate? Is this permissible activity? And I would remind everyone who might be believing the BS of the right now. The GAB already gave their legal decision. They had already offered advice. I know they offered it to Mary Burke's campaign, but what they had advised candidates is no. You may not coordinate with outside groups. That is illegal in the state of Wisconsin. It is decided law in the case of Wilcox. And if you do it, you are breaking campaign finance laws. Scott Walker chose to do so anyways. I have my suspicions about Brad Schimmel, despite his denials. And Prosser as much as confessed to it in his concurrence with the majority decision, one of the most corrupt in the history of the state of Wisconsin. We are the Devil's Advocates. Come back. More passion on this topic, I suspect, after this short break. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Aren't you ashamed?
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Grass-fed, locally raised.
Tom Perez, chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
Hey, great to be with you. And since I spoke last, I went to my first game at Camp Randall. So
all right.
I was very excited.
Well, I feel quite confident that was a victory as my team's undefeated, Tom.
Hey, I agree. Our team, you should say. My daughter's there at Madison.
Oh, that's right.
It was a great day.
Happy
great
Badgers.
Day.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. You are listening to Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, WRRD, 1510 AM, Milwaukee, Waukesha. There is not a gun to my head right now.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that failed facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to The Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive, and now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
Ah, the happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Aren't you ashamed?
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Can't wait till he gets to the chorus. Serenade your girl, Aaliyah Bookmer.
Oh, the victim that is Leah.
I think of her more as Nurse Ratched. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Some of you on live stream, newstalk1510am.com. But we know we got friends in Charlottesville. We got friends out there in Northern California. Hopefully up there in Minneapolis as well. Friends all across this great country. But we got to play some backyard politics still, Dom. Because we got the most corrupted campaign finance laws in the nation. We've got a governor who actively broke the law. Knew he was doing it. He has subsequently got a get-out-of-jail-free card.
From a corrupted Wisconsin Supreme Court, who also benefited from that very same illegal coordination when it was done at the time.
I would love to be my own judge.
Yes,
go out and break the law and get to rule on whether or not I broke the law. No, I don't think I did.
I don't think I did either.
Dom, we've got callers waiting. 844-967-2789. Always toll free. We've got some sound of your girl, Aaliyah Bookmer. But real quick, a little bit more. Brad Schimmel. Again, let's not forget, Rudolph Randa had first crack at this case.
Republican federal judge from Wisconsin.
Heck, now departed. I will not dance too much on his grave, but the question was of Brad Schimmel. Now that Randa has ruled that coordination is permissible, how will you advise the Wankinator? If you would, Fancy Brian, play cut 2.
Right now, Judge Randa's decision is the law until it's either stayed or until someone appeals and has a different end result. So it is the law right now. I would tell them to proceed with caution.
That was Schimmel referring to a question from Milwaukee Journal Vice.
Why would you proceed with caution if they were so damn confident that this was always permissible under Wisconsin law? That's what his newest report, this investigation of the leak to the Guardian, implies or states that, well, it was so clearly legal and we were so witch hunt persecuted by these partisans. 5 DAs, a former Republican special prosecutor, 6 retired judges at the Government Accountability Board, 3 formerly Republicans.
Yeah, they're all...
And the dastardly Shane Falk with the nefarious missing hard drive.
Even though he turned it in.
Yeah, when he exited employment at the GAB in April of 2014, let's not forget, Shane Falk, by Schimmel's own admission in these documents, turned his hard drive in to allow this accusation to hang out there. I mean, this is the worst sort of yellow journalistic... if it were journalism.
Well, right, but it's
this is
what do
real
you
crap.
really expect anything more from Brad Schimmel?
No, each and every day, I lose more and more faith in the Attorney General. He's supposed to be the top cop. He is supposed to set the shining example. Other than being a partisan show for the Republican Party, I'm not sure what Brad Schimmel does in this world.
Well, I can't believe anybody would be surprised. Of course, he was asked a question years ago. We're going to bring it up again. Hey, what do you think about enforcing the ban on interracial marriage?
Wait,
Mr.
before
Schimmel.
we play it.
What?
The context. Now, the law of the land, as we talked about, Will Cox, the ruling, the precedent-setting ruling, you cannot coordinate with outside groups as a campaign committee in the state of Wisconsin. How do we know that? Justice Wilcock was fined through a court settlement and, a finding of the court. That was precedent-setting.
Yes.
So, under that standard, shouldn't the top cop, the Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin, shouldn't he enforce the laws as they are written and decided by the courts?
You would think.
And now, he was asked this question by the Oshkosh Eye when he was running for Attorney General.
About enforcing all laws, even laws you don't agree with, perhaps like interracial marriage?
Or bans thereon.
Cut number 3, Brad Schimmel responding to Oshkosh Eye.
It might be distasteful to me, but I've got to stay consistent with that as the state's lawyer. It's not my job to pick and choose.
So, Schimmel, let's get this through everyone's head here right now and be very clear about this. Brad Schimmel said in that statement that he would enforce a law such as a ban on interracial marriage. He would enforce that.
If it's on the books, I got to enforce it. Even if it's immoral, I got to enforce it.
But when it comes down to illegal coordination with third-party groups and campaigns, well, it's up for a matter of interpretation. I would be very cautious.
And when questioned by the Fourth Estate by journalists on what he would advise the governor when Rudolph Randa, the federal courts ruled, seemed much less confident on the standing and advice he would give. Oh, I'd move with caution, right? Because it was against the law. And just because one judge said it wasn't against the law didn't make it not against the law.
844-967-2789. This pisses me off. Jake from Milwaukee, you are up. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Jake.
Yeah, like Dom, I hold, officers of the law, people in law enforcement much higher than politicians. So that's why this really pisses me off as much as you guys. But just two things. Schimmel did say in the run-up that he would support anything basically Scott Walker would do as Attorney General. He did say that on the run-up, and that's probably what helped to get him elected. So that's what he is doing exactly right now. He's helping them because we all know Republicans, especially in this state, like to punish their enemies no matter how petty it is.
And no matter what their political affiliation is, Jake.
Exactly. But my question is, after reading some of it and looking at it, Schimmel just, I think, might have made him a big mistake on this. He might have overreached, jumped the shark, because what he basically did is he, one, didn't have any evidence to actually even, take them to court, and he defamed their characters, right? Could and should they sue him for defamation of character because your friend Falk has a case.
Well, and he's also under accusation. Now, he did self-report to the Office of Lawyers and Regulation, but Shane Falk now has to go through a legal defense. And what is the stance of Brad Schimmel? You should burn the evidence, as the Wisconsin Supreme Court said. Well, doesn't every man have the right to a fair defense? Doesn't he have the right to present the evidence and demonstrate? It would be so ironic if Schimmel opened up this Pandora's box by making these false allegations against Shane Falk, Kevin Kennedy, Chisholm. These men all have the right to defend themselves before contempt charges or censure by the OLR.
Because if he does have the evidence and he is forced to put it, it might actually show him in a terrible light. I mean, I think about it for a sec. What if Schimmel or one of his hacks, or maybe even someone in the Supreme Court gave the information to the Guardian? It would go with the modus operandi of the Wisconsin Republican Party because they're petty.
A false flag, Jake, perhaps?
Well, no, maybe. I don't know.
I don't believe that. I think someone was trying to influence.
I have no idea.
I think someone was trying to influence the U.S. Supreme Court at that time. Let's not forget the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruling and the failure to recuse on behalf of at least Gableman and Prosser. Ironic they should both choose retirement now.
What's up with that? They're not there anymore?
But they didn't choose to recuse despite the fact that litigants before the court, the accused, had also benefited their own individual campaigns to the tune of millions of dollars. And there was prior precedent before the U.S. Supreme Court. Massey, Cole, I mean, there was a Supreme Court justice in West Virginia who chose not to recuse. There was proof that he had received benefit to the tune of $2 to $3 million. Well, we're certainly in that ballpark with both Prosser and Gableman and the recipients of grandiose they got from Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, Wisconsin Club for Growth.
And again, but let's not forget, with the leak that was out there to the Guardian and Prosser's own statement seemed to imply that there was coordination with Supreme Court justices doing the same
Wisconsin
thing.
Supreme Court,
yes,
meaning him
Wisconsin.
and Gableman and Rogansack and Ziegler.
Well, it was the U.S. Supreme Court that, denied the case, didn't take it up?
Well, they didn't take it up. I think someone was, at that time, if you remember the timing, I think someone was trying to influence the U.S. Supreme Court by showing just how corrupt it was. Because Scott Walker asked. I mean, the quid pro quo of the lead-based paint industry, they wrote checks to Walker's coordinating group. Effectively, they gave corporate cash anonymously to Scott Walker's benefit, and he turned around with the budget and gave them back quid pro quo reductions in liability on lead-based paint.
The support of the Wisconsin Republicans.
Of course they had the support of the Wisconsin Republicans.
Hey, let's talk about this for a moment. Gag orders. How come these...
It's a one-way gag order now. You realize
what do you mean by that?
Well, those that are accused... Specifically Shane Falk, John Chisholm. There's a reason Shane Falk's not here. He'd certainly like to be today. John Chisholm, he can't talk about this. Francis Schmidt, he can't talk about this. Kevin Kennedy, he can't talk about this. They are all subject to gag order by the court. However, people like Leah Vukmer, people like Scott Walker, people like Eric O'Keefe, they've now been exempted. They can say whatever they want. And in fact, as we pointed out yesterday, Schimmel chose purposefully not to investigate the specific known criminal leak, the breaking of the gag order, Eric O'Keefe running over to the Wall Street Journal.
The original leaker, Eric O'Keefe from Wisconsin Club for Growth.
And let's not forget, he also leaked plenty to M.D. Kittle and Vicki McKenna, your girl over at Heartless Radio.
Vicki McKenna, part of that. The emails showed that they wanted to get out and get the right-wing radio involved with their messaging. Yeah, that's all part of a nice, big, fat old party that we wouldn't know anything about.
Do you remember the details of that little circumstance? You bring up an interesting point. Let's not forget, when the Kloppenberg-Prosser race came down, and Kathy Nicholas, the county clerk of Waukesha County, forgot to include the votes of Brookfield, or so they would have us believe. And then she found the votes on her private home server somewhere.
I didn't know you could do that.
But in the meantime, there was a call that went out. And the call was former Assembly Speaker Scott Jensen, the guy disgraced in the caucus scandal. He got his get-out-of-jail-free card. Well, you know whose knee he mentored at? Prosser. Prosser taught him how to do what was done in the caucus scandal. Prosser perpetrated the same crimes. He effectively confessed after the fact, after the statute of limitations ran out. And Scott Jensen, that disgraced former Assembly Speaker, put the call out. Anybody here about any sort of bad illegal voting going on? Anything that we could use to cast shade upon the outcome of this Prosser race? Because at that point, they thought Prosser had lost to Kloppenburg.
Wait, Scott Jensen, he got a get-out-of-jail-free card. Who helped him out on that case?
Oh, that was Brad Schimmel. Then
the
Attorney General of Waukesha County. And you know who answered the call, right-wing talk radio-wise?
Vicky McKenna?
Yeah, your girl.
Yeah.
More devil's advocates. We're nobody's girl. Come back with us. Phone lines open to you. 844-967-2789. WRD News Talk 1510 AM.
I'm Senator Leah Vukmir. I'm voting for Donald Trump.
I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call a number on the for sale sign?
Great question. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you the home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner to buy that house at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust.
Like you?
Like me. I will find the home that best fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from the offer through closing day. And the best part is that the buyer doesn't have to pay a dime for me to represent them.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty 608-284-9311 or find them at solidarityrealty.com. Hi, I'm Crudy. I'm here with my friend Tom Alonzi, Principal Officer with Teamsters Local 200. Tom, why are you union strong, Teamster strong?
Well, because, Crudy, the Teamsters are the most powerful labor union in North America with 1.4 million members, standing together for better wages, benefits, and working conditions at their respective places of work.
Tom, what are the unions going to do for the next generation?
The same things we Teamsters have done for the generations before them, Crudy. Give them respect, dignity, and representation with a legal binding contract with their employer, not just the empty promises of an ever-changing employee handbook.
Tom, if people want to know more about the unions or joining the Teamsters, what do they do?
Well, Crudy, they can simply call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 and say, I'd like to know more about becoming a Teamster. Or they can go to our website at teamsterslocal200.com.
Be union strong. Stand with Teamsters Local 200, like News Talk 1510 AM and your friend Crudy.
I was on Zero Res Madison's Facebook page the other day, and they have almost 2,000 testimonials from local customers. Apparently, I'm not the only one stoked on how cool this company is. A green technology that actually works better and doesn't cost more. It's a no-brainer. I'm in. We are starting our own Devil's Advocates revolution to free your carpets from harsh chemicals and soaps. Call Zero Res today and ask for the Dom and Crude special 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Going through divorce is a very emotional time in someone's life, and when I went through my first divorce, I really needed someone to help me through the legal aspects of what my rights were. That's why I got in contact with Lawton & Cates.
The attorneys at Lawton & Cates. It's who you turn to for legal advice. 282-6200 or lawtoncates.com.
When you need an attorney, trust the voice of experience. The only choice, Lawton & Cates.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella, Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines. Five Nines is more than just our name. It's the level of service you can expect. We provide 99.999% uptime. That's the highest availability and performance you can get. You have enough to worry about with your business data, web, security, and cloud services, so we'll manage your IT so you don't have to. Visit 59s.com. That's the number 5NINES.com.
It only takes a minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it at doihaveprediabetes.org. But you're probably not going to, are you? Kids, work, listening to the radio. You're busy, which is great because busy people can't get prediabetes. Oh my, I read that wrong. They can. Should have worn my glasses. So visit doihaveprediabetes.org and take a short test, because prediabetes can be reversed.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, 1510 AM WRRD. Don't get fooled again. Give us a call. Let us know your thoughts. Last segment of the day. Make it count, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, quick headline. A continuing resolution. The Republicans have voted to keep government open for like 2 more weeks.
Hey, there's some governance for you.
But we're still looking forward to a shutdown before Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. It's the Republican war on Christmas, Dom. You wait.
Oh, see?
You wait.
Merry Christmas, Republicans.
Dom, I'm not sure where we want to go next. I know Leah Vukmir was out victimizing herself. Oh, poor me. But there are these emails, this whole Schimmel investigation. This was all about leaks to The Guardian. Well, someone risked life, limb, and career over this, Dom. I feel like we should share some of the corruption contained in the emails that were released to The Guardian about a year ago at this time.
From The Guardian, here's a little snippet for you, Crudy. You remember?
Just give me some of the
all right, here's
red
one.
meat.
Here's one. Paul Singer, hedge fund manager and chairman of the Manhattan Institute, crops up in these documents.
Well, Paul Singer was a donor to Scott Walker during the recall. Paul Singer was the funder of the Trump dossier. You know, the PP tape.
Originally, when the Republicans were funding it.
And at the time, Scott Walker was the front runner amongst the Republican field, although not yet a declared candidate until about June? You know, it was a short run, 71 days. But before that, he was an unofficial candidate. He had a 527. Hell, he had 2 of them. And Paul Singer was one of his big funders. So let's not forget, even though Scott Walker was quick and the only presidential candidate I recall denying prior knowledge of the Trump dossier and the PP tape.
No, nothing.
Paul Singer, his big funder, was the guy that put the money up. I think Scott Walker knows all about the PP tape.
From The
I have
Guardian.
no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah, no questions. From The Guardian, 3 months before Walker's recall election, Singer attended a forum of business leaders held by the American Enterprise Institute in a luxury
Koch
resort
brothers.
off the coast of Georgia. Walker was also there, arriving at the resort armed with a to-do list from his chief fundraiser, Kate Donor. It bore a pithy command. Paul Singer, grab him. The governor presumably did as was told. 2 months later, a check from Singer was banked for $250,000. What particularly caught the attention of the prosecutors was that when the money came in, it did not go directly to Walker's personal campaign committee, Friends of Scott Walker. To do so would have been problematic, as any campaign committee directly linked to a candidate is limited in Wisconsin to accepting contributions of up to $43,000 that have to be fully disclosed.
And at that time, it was $10,000 to the individual candidate committee. So Scott Walker would have been capped at 10. It's now 20. But of course, when you use a third-party group to coordinate with them, it can be unlimited, uncapped, and anonymous.
What else we got here? A good example of the way things worked, according to The Guardian, was a donation made by now President Donald Trump. On 3rd of April 2012, 2 months before the governor faced the electorate, Walker flew to New York for a rapid-fire string of fundraising meetings with big money interest. Notice he wasn't running around the state here.
You know what, though? Trump kind of stiffed him relative to, $250,000 from Paul Singer.
That's because Trump's really not a billionaire, maybe.
How much did Trump give him, Dom?
He traveled the length of Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, Walker did, making stops at investment bank Morgan Stanley, a hedge fund, a corporate law firm, and the residence of publishing tycoon Steve Forbes. He also enjoyed a 45-minute audience with Trump in his Fifth Avenue lair. There is no record of the conversation between the two men, but it appears to have been a warm encounter, as John Doe files show that Trump wrote a check for $15,000 on the same day.
$15,000 in New York City would barely get you 45 minutes at the strip club.
Who was the beneficiary of Trump's $15,000 generosity, Crudy? No, not Walker. Wisconsin Club for Growth. Another example. An email dropped to his fundraiser on June 14th, my birthday, 2011.
Also Trump's.
Also got $1 million from John Menard today. 8 days later, a check for $1 million is cut on corporate check of Menard, Inc., the billionaire.
Corporate check? Well, Scott Walker, as a candidate in the state of Wisconsin, he couldn't accept corporate money, could he, Dom?
No, Crudy. Of course not. That would be illegal. The check was made out to Wisconsin Club for Growth. The donation remained a secret until the publication of the Guardian's leaked files. John Menard, wasn't he guilty of dumping? There's some EPA issues, and then
I think John Menard has been one of the most cited DNR violators in the state of Wisconsin's history.
And
I
then
don't know that
didn't he
for
win
fact.
some environmental award then afterwards? I'm going off of memory, folks. I'll have to look it up. But this is how it was done. And then through R.J. Johnson, through coordination, they knew they shouldn't have been doing it, but hell, they got a workaround. They didn't care. When you own the Wisconsin Supreme Court, you can do just about anything you want.
And R.J. Johnson, he was the funnel. He was personally enriching himself. He worked for the Walker campaign. He worked for Wisconsin Club for Growth. He worked for the RSC. He had like 4 different hats he wore. And he was the spoke. He was the funnel. He was the bag man. And let's not forget, these checks, what was written in the one comment section?
Because Scott Walker asked.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. Want to thank our fine guests today. They included U.S. Congressman Mark Pocan, Matt Rothschild, we call him Batman, and Sadie Tischer from Wisconsin Health Insurance Advocates. We appreciate you listening each day. Hate to turn it off, but gotta do so. You know, the FCC made us like 30, 40 minutes ago. But the FM, it's coming soon. We are making public notice. Can't wait to launch it. See you later in Virginia. See you later in California. All across the great state of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and parts unknown. Thanks for listening. Devil's Advocates will do it again tomorrow. We'll air your Friday grievances. Please tune in.
They'd like to take me out for a lot of reasons far bigger than just this election.
In the fact that I am leaving while a man who has bragged on tape about his history of sexual assault sits in the Oval Office.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
We are the People for People, People Corporation. We are a registered